Don't say I never told you. Go, get out of my mind. I refuse to be your soldier. Waste my time. Don't say I never told you. Go, get out of my mind. I refuse to be your soldier. Waste my time. Don't say I never told you. Go.
big updates to map consistency, an expansion of the recall system, and the results of those aim punch tests. All this and more as we dive into the update 35.1 patch report. First up, as we talked about in the 2025 roadmap, we're starting our big moves towards standardizing key gameplay elements of the Battlegrounds experience. This will be a phased approach over the next several updates, and we'll begin with items. You'll see things like the zipline gun, emergency cover flare, and stun gun appearing across all Battlegrounds, while things like the thermal scope and blue chip transmitter are being removed everywhere. Take a look at the roadmap for all of our upcoming plans, or the patch notes to see the specifics of this first set of changes. Another way we're unifying the experience is by expanding the recall system to all maps, which means it's now available on Karakin and Paramount. Each map will have its own specifics for the system, so check out the patch notes for details. We're looking forward to seeing how these changes shift strategy on these maps. Next, thanks to your great testing and feedback, we're ready to implement the new aim punch system to live. We're going live with the settings from our last gunplay labs, and are looking forward to hearing your feedback on the system in the live environment. Last but not least, we're making audio adjustments based on your feedback, such as your shooting, driving, and the mortar explosions. Let us know how it sounds. There's also a new contender system in the workshop, a new survivor pass, more improvements to custom match, a new rank season, and more. So check out the patch notes for full details. Update 35.1 is here, so hit up a blue chip tower, call in some friends, and give your enemies a personalized lesson on how aim punch works. We'll see you on the Battlegrounds.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fantastic episode in the PUBG Players Tour. My name is Cameron Davis, and I'm joined by Chunks here this weekend. We have another best of 8 here in a Players Cup number 3. Chunks, last weekend we saw the very first Masters, and now we get to experience what other teams are coming in to try and take over Masters number 2. Some familiar names from Masters number 1, some new names as well. I'm not going to ask you have your eyes on. I don't want to get into that just yet, but I am going to ask, how are you feeling? How excited are you for this new set, this new, I guess, leg of the PPT?
I am so excited. I mean, We saw in the first 2 weeks that, it's not all about those top teams that we see in every event necessarily doing amazing every single game. It's the opportunity for players to come in through those weekly scrims and prove themselves. And now that we've kind of reset, we've cleared out after the Masters, we've got a lot of familiar. I think we need to keep an eye out for teams that maybe didn't quite make it last time around, looking to finally make their mark against the best teams in Americas.
Yeah, and when we look at the teams, some of you will recognize that some of the big names won't be here. And part of that is going to be some of them are traveling to Shanghai because of the PGS event that's happening over there. So some just won't have an opportunity to play, which could give an opening. But we have some other teams that are old favorites. We got Toyo, we got Liquid, we got Duel. We even have some Team Casito who are kind of newcomers. They made their debut, I guess, on the big stage, however you want to divide that, during the Masters. Hopefully they can take that experience and bring it back over here.
Yeah, I mean, Team Casito are one of those where they didn't really have those massive standout performances in the previous Players Cups, but they were consistent enough to be able to make it to the Masters. And I think consistency is really not as important when we're in these Player Cups, because obviously it's only an 8-game format. It only takes 1 or 2 really strong games. So all you need to do is go out swinging, get yourself a lot of kills on the board, get a couple of decent placements, and you might just be able to creep your way into that top 8. But again, there's so many. With only 1 attempt at each map this evening, it's going to make it difficult, especially if you end up taking one of those hot drops. You really have to be able to come out on top quickly.
That being said, if there's a hot drop, it's only 1 map out of the set. So I don't know. I guess it depends on how you look at it. But here is the format. We're in the purple section of this graphic. We had the green section previously. Those happen best of 3s, just gather points, almost like you would climb up a ranked ladder. But now we're in a best of 8 for the Players Cup. As you can see, top 8 of this weekend qualify to the next Masters, and then the next Players Cup, the next 8 will qualify. As we saw from the previous set of Players Cups 1 and 2 for Masters number 1, you can play in both. Even if you qualified in the first one, you can still play in the second because there is a cash prize. And also, more importantly, I think, Chunks, it gives that extra level of experience. PUBG is PUBG, whether it's first person or third person. But there are, going to be some differences that we've already seen get explored. And that's actually one of the best things that I've enjoyed coming out of watching these events is the exploration process of this new format.
I mean, earlier on, I saw something interesting because they warming up for the TPP. There was like a smoke down, and they did something that I think it might have been Rello, like step back from the smoke to be able to look over it and figure out where a player was. It's the small intricacies, and the more you practice, the more opportunities you get to play, the more you're going to get used to that and be able to just have that slight edge over your opponents and really shine in this event.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you see people climb on top of deployable shields to get that extra level of height, whether they're in a smoke or not, just all those really cool things are interesting. I mean, coming from my own personal experience, you really have to approach the game in an entirely different way. You really need to start thinking of, okay, if there is a team over here, where will they be hiding? Where can they see me that I can't see them? For the longest time, I thought that utility would be the most important thing, and it still is. But going into the Masters, we didn't see it come out as much as we initially thought, maybe because of the high, I guess, the early game interactions that we saw. The meta that we saw established was more so, if we don't have a central position, the worse. So let's just fight on the edge.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult balance to find, though, isn't it? Because obviously there are going to be teams that qualify through the Opens that maybe aren't quite as confident, that are going to be playing a little bit more passive. But then you've got a lot of those squads, like Alcurcia in here, like Liquid, that are just going to be willing to take those fights as often as they can. And that's the thing I'm most excited for, I think, seeing the aggression coming out from these teams. And this is something we saw in the first week and the second week of the Players Cup. It's going to be LG and 55 dropping onto Power Grid. And I mean, speaking from experience here, neither team has really come out unscathed out of this fight.
It's weird that they're committing, but they're going at it again. Foxy swinging around the side. I can't believe he won that. Foxic had the informational advantage, but close range SMGs can't count him out.
Gats, though, just anchoring behind. He's almost prepared for that push from 55 Esports. They're not overexposing themselves. They've got the advantage here. Backy needs to be able to get some heals to be able to get back into the fight. So it's all on to Mixed all right now. Just watching out, trying not to expose himself and just trying to gather a little bit of info before he overexposes, throwing down the smoke, looking like he's probably going to try and get the flush out of this one, but not peeking it just yet. Flashbang comes out over the top, not to connect. This could be Gaps' cue to peek, but he's not able to make anything out of it. Voxic taken down now.
Yeah, good attempt on the defense, but Voxic does go down. Gats looked like he had the angle, but it wasn't a very big one. And now the rest of Luminosity, how are they going to play this one out? They're not in a position that they can exit this hot drop that easily, especially we can see on the minimap H11 Jr. flexing out towards the north, going for an even further angle. I think it's going to be a while if H11 is trying to do a full wrap around the west side. It's going to take a while, but hey, points are points, you know? And like you said, it's a best of 8 series, and especially if this is the only Miramar that we're having tonight, sometimes guaranteeing these 4 might be a good idea. Especially considering the circle, which we haven't seen yet, it's basically dead center on this entire map. This is the most central Miramar. Also means that 55, or Luminosity for that matter, don't need to worry too much about having to rotate all that quickly. The big threat is actually just going to be if they get crashed by another squad. But at the moment, they're still focused in on this fight. They'll think about that later when they have the opportunity to. More shots come out. Snakers has left towards the west a touch. And H11... I'm looking on the big map. He's not on the small map anymore, but he is going for a wide wrap on the big map. Luke 12, Sparking, the rest of the team Liquid. They're really trying to find a way to corner this dual player. And they know exactly what they're doing. This is like watching National Geographic. The leopards in the tree or the bush or whatever it is. I'm not an animal. I'm not a zoologist. I play
Sparking though. Stealthy. Sneaking up onto his prey. Potentially a Spectro. Out in no man's land. Liquid just fully surrounding the compound here. I don't think Duel have any idea about what's about to happen, and Halo able to pick up a relatively easy kill right there. Liquid getting priority onto that compound, and it's going to be an important one in a circle like this as well. As now, LG, they're looking to make their way out of Power Grid. They've already taken damage, taken a casualty. They want to try and make a move, try and salvage what they can. Now, LG, last time in the Players Cup, they got really aggressive, played the cliffside, but I think they've heard the shots down to the southwest potentially, so they aren't going to be moving on to this just now. But never mind. Are they faking a rotate here? This is big.
I love this. This is huge. Those dips gave them the perfect cover to make this run back up. And even though high ground is still advantaged over low ground, the third-person camera does give some special angles for approaches like that. But we are going to pop over to Potentially Dangerous, getting approached by In Check. Glock with a nice knock onto Andrew. Potentially Dangerous have had some really good standout moments from both PAS and the PPT so far. So keep your eyes on them to see what damage they can do and if they continue to grow in this trajectory. We do see Alcudzia off in the distance. If they decide to join this party, this could be quite disastrous. And we know how aggressive in the early game Alcudzia like to be.
This is one of those spots as well where everyone who's rotating in from the east, they tend to scout out on this position, looking straight towards where In Check are right now. So they are opening up with some shots. It's going to be Relo getting aggressive early, trying to force some heads down. I'm not sure whether they're going to be aware of Potentially Dangerous, but this could potentially force In Check out of the compound early if they know that they're going to be third-partied from behind now. So it's a question of how much they know about Potentially Dangerous. You can see the squad's already posted up. The vehicles have given away a lot of info. They know that they're kind of pinched in this position. And sure, they don't have to move just yet, but they still are relatively far out on the edge of the zone as Selfish with a nice little spray to catch some damage. It's not enough to convert over into a knock, but Potentially Dangerous now in some potential dangerous. Alcudzia have completely wrapped around and are potentially looking to choke them out.
Yeah, Roth is anchoring for the rest of Alcudia, still up on Hollywood sign. The rest of the team has gone so far away from him, trying to get in front of potentially dangerous. We saw PD pull away from that original standoff that they had, but Alcudia, they're aware that they might have pushed a little bit too far. They're seeing some presence by Team Casito. And so I think Cowboy, he might have wanted to go a bit more aggressive onto potentially dangerous, is instead deciding to back away. The rest of Alcudia is following suit. 3 minutes left in phase number 1. They're just going to find what's essentially free semi-central position. This could give them a nice spot to run out the rest of the game, assuming that the circle goes towards the east.
I feel like where you have to pay attention when this zone finally does close in is all going to be about that valley just the northeast of Picado. I think a lot of teams are going to be kind of playing one side or the other, and if that circle ends up centering up over the next few phases, then does a hard shift over to the side. It's going to be extremely messy for a lot of these squads to try and deal with. But as of right now, things seem to be relatively stable. I'm a little bit concerned about Luke 12 playing all the way off on his own, but he wants to get himself some hard cover for the team. He just needs to be cautious of Alcudia, because you can see Rello is very close over that ridgeline. Surely he's going to be able to just about hear that vehicle. He's probably going to get a read that there's at least somebody there. This could prevent Alcudia from pushing, but as we mentioned earlier, this is an aggressive squad. It would not surprise me to see them be like, hey, there's a player up here. I've only heard one vehicle. Let's just try and make a move as a squad now.
Yeah, it's a big question about whether they are able to identify if it's one player or not. That's the big risk of crashing with third person, is the big defensive advantage. Luminosity, they have pushed into 55, and I don't know exactly how they got to this point. We were watching the opposite side of the map until now, but that fake has led to this position where Snakers and the rest of Luminosity are able to get, at the very least, one simple, straightforward trade. However, from the way that they are running back now, it seems that they only had one vehicle, and that was that one Jeep that they left on the opposite side of Power Grid. Smart on them to not stick around and commit to what could be a very low priority fight, considering this is still just phase 1.
It's about trading blow for blow, isn't it? You're not going to take one of our players without losing one of your own, and I think that was the logic there from LG. They were able to get a point out of it, and they were able to at least weaken their opponent that was nearby. The Sandstorm is going to cause a little bit of a problem here for Forever, as they were looking over towards Rello's position, but couldn't quite make anything out of it, so they are just going to continue kind of getting into zone right now, focusing on their position. As I can't help but notice all around Alcudia now, that entire kind of eastern side of the circle, we've got 5 teams in the space of about a kilometer. That is one of those pressure cooker situations, isn't it? Yeah. Where just slowly over time, it's going to build and get gradually worse. It was actually Forever that decided to push over onto Luke 12 in the end, so Rello's definitely going to be aware of someone now. I would not expect Alcudia to actually make a move onto this anytime soon.
OMG, sending some shots towards 55. We pan back out. We got 10 seconds before we see phase 2. And you're right, there are a lot of players on the east side. There are so many different little compounds to the west of Minas Generales and south of there that it doesn't surprise me to see so many teams. But if the circle doesn't favor that position, which you could argue maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, it's in, but it's on the edge. Northern medium hard shift favoring San Martin. All those teams on the south around Los Leones and Chumacera need to make their way through that blockade on the south. That valley that you mentioned north of Picado is probably the easiest transition period, but Duel versus Liquid. K-Mine with the knock onto Alo.
Oh, the side angle, though, from Kurt, able to take down K-Mind. It's trade for trade everywhere right now. It's only going to be IQ left up here for Duel, as we've said before, kind of one of the ultimate mix teams at the moment. IQ going to be looking out, trying to salvage a couple more kills, but right now, Team Liquid are weakened. They've got a couple of points on the board, but this is not the way you wanted to start out the evening. They've still got a decent distance that they need to try and close down. Luke 12 preps the nade. He knows where IQ's going to be, but it's going to be frag for frag right now. Both players potentially taking some damage, but no, Luke gets behind the bookshelf just in time, and it's Duel eliminated by Team Liquid very early on. As I mean, Liquid, they are going to be comfortable in this position. They've got no teams down to the south that they need to worry about, but when the time comes to rotate, they're going to be in real trouble.
Yeah. They got 4 points, that's good, but losing 2 players, I think they would have rather have a second go at that fight, that engagement, but hey, 4 points is better than 0. It's certainly not the worst start to a day. And it's all about making top 8. You don't need to be first, you don't need to be second, it's just top 8. But 55, a little bit of a sloppy roll up we see in the kill feed. Typhon Gaming made a really big splash the previous Masters. Let's see if they can continue that run here. They spotted Luminosity inside San Martin. Should be spotting Toyo as well. Shots at this range, quite ambitious.
You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
It's
am I
not
right?
about hitting the shots, it's about getting the knock and the time. Even if you land every single one, you got to get the knock and then confirm the kill. But Toyo now, they're rolling up onto Fora. High pressure situation for one of the newer teams in the lobby who are already down one player.
Hippo, though, trading blow for blow. Just a little bit of damage, no knocks coming through. I'm not sure what they realised that Atlas is over in that position. It looks like they might have just about got an eye on him as he got into it, but Pippa able to get the knock in the end. Toyo taking the advantage. They are sweeping through, but they're lacking a lot of information. They've now gained it off of those shots coming out from the opposing team. Capitan using that third person, not wanting to overexpose, but making it difficult now for their opponents to actually rotate, popping those vehicle tires. It's about playing the long game, but look at this. Over on the left-hand side, we've got RNG sneaking up behind. Pentalol and Lobes trying their best to third-party this. They don't want to expose themselves just yet, because if they take shots, they are in trouble. They are wide open if they decide to push in any further.
It's about finding the opportunity. I'm looking at the map. There is no one around them. Atlas no cap gets confirmed by Pippa. I think someone got spotted. Shots towards Pure RNG's position. That might have been towards Lobes. Pentalo is still safely hiding behind this rock. You can see Valiate swinging up to the north, playing in the far flank position that you know he has always been historically so want to play from. A great spray by Penta. Doesn't quite get the knock. One bullet left. And we see the circle medium shift to the northeast, and that's going to pull Pure RNG away from this engagement. They're going to try and make their way into Hacienda, but the best angle would either be a wrap all the way to the north, but that puts them into potential threat range of either OMG or Alcudia.
This is interesting, because for the first time in a while, Valier is not the player for his team in blue. It's actually Jam that is really far back trying to move in, but Liquid, they're going to be taking a lot of damage on the rotate. This is what they have to be careful of. You know, when you're in a vehicle like this, you've only got 2 players left up. All it takes is a couple of good sprays from a squad, and that vehicle is done. They're going to try and get whatever they can, but honestly, with this circle centering up over on Hacienda, there's not really going to be much to play. I imagine a lot of teams are going to play the dips where they can. I don't think too many squads are going to be interested in taking the fight over in San Martin. You know, these teams are used to taking fights in FPP, but in TPP, you tend to want to lean more towards playing those ridges, playing those dips, rather than you do going straight into a compound, but it looks like that's exactly what potentially Dangerous are going to do. As Luke 12 tries to land the spray to defend, but it's not going to be enough. Slabby takes him out, and Liquid now down to just a solo.
Hate to see it. A lot of teams in really, really messy rotations. This part of the map is really difficult to rotate through. We got a couple of very dangerous choke points, not just the North Picado Road, but also going around San Martin to the east of Hacienda. So we're seeing a lot of damage happen to kill feed. Potentially Dangerous losing one. Toyo rolling up onto Pure RNG. He's caught up in a crossfire. Penta gets one, but instantly traded by Pippa. Lobe's there with the second, but now he's traded. It's just 2 for 2. Toyo are holding. They're surviving for now. Valiant and Jam gonna come up and do something quick before Toyo can get these revives.
Those crossfires, they work oh so well when there's a team in a dip or out in the open, but again, once you're in those compounds, your teammates can't support you if you go down. Now that they've lost 2, you've got to imagine Pure RNG aren't going to get that third player back up. Penta is down and out at this point. I maybe speak too soon, though, as Jam's going to be pushing in. Spots out the player. He's going to have exposed himself as well. Just dodging and weaving, trying to avoid each other. Both players down to low health, forced to reload. He's going to push him regardless, though. Pre-fires onto the staircase. It's not going to be enough. Gets that BZ nade just through the doorway. Should force players out of position, hoping to give himself a little bit of time to get the revive. It's going to be difficult, though. All it takes is one nade, one rogue player to wrap around, and he is in trouble. Both players have been able to heal as Toyo holding onto the hardcover, trying to prevent Valiate from closing in. They've got the numbers advantage. They want to keep it that way, but a beautiful spray through the smoke, taking Valiate low. But Toyo, they're back up to 4.
Yeah, really good hold. It's all about stalling. Jam is still locked in that corner. Multiple BZ grenades come out. And I don't think it's going to be good for Jammer. Yeah, it does go down. It's the double BZ. Make it a triple. Why not? Throw all the utility. That is how much Toyo are valuing holding on to this position, or at least holding on to this fight, because you can see it in the next zone. It went towards the east. No longer is this compound in the map, in the game. Valiate leaves, and now Toyo, they have an opportunity to drive on into the zone. Pretty straightforward path for them, but they're going to have to get closer and closer to Hacienda, and those windows are going to be looking very scary, very dangerous.
This is kind of worst case scenario if we're looking at Circle 1 right now. I don't think any teams would have expected Hacienda to be where it ends up, but it's still, you know, an interesting way for things to go. There's a lot of little dips and ridges that squads are able to play around Hacienda, but ultimately whoever controls the compound really controls how the game unfolds. They should have plenty of loot. I can't quite recall off the top of my head if anyone did drop there, but still, we are playing comp settings. There's plenty of loot. They'll have plenty of supplies to be able to regroup if they need to. Typhon, though, they're just trying to get a read before they over-aggress. They've got the high ground. They're doing everything they can to make the most out of it, but they know that they have to move sooner or later, and 55 Esports are not going to let them in for free.
Still waiting for Typhon. Start to get explosive. Getting zero points at this point in the first game doesn't mean anything, but I'm just waiting for the same Typhon that we saw last weekend really show up now. And this fight against 55 could be the sign. Of course, it's not just 55. There's a second green team in the midst. Fora. T-Plens is watching over this. Here's the footsteps, trying to use the camera, but even despite getting spotted, able to get the first knock, and the crossfire of the teammate is there to get the second. Four Adoras are eliminated, but you can see Typhon there inching closer after that engagement.
See, the concern now for 55 has to be, hey, we've just cleared out the team that was behind us. Do they know that it was Typhon behind them? You have to imagine from the way that Mixel's playing, they do hear the vehicle, they see the smokes, they've got to have a read that somebody is up there. And I got to say, beautifully defended from 55 to be able to get that crossfire, have the player, you know, on that position, peek out, take all the attention away, and then just peek out from the corner and catch them off guard. Typhon did hop out of their vehicle. They're definitely eager to try and get down this ridge line, but I don't think any squad's going to be able to do it without taking a fight at this point. Really nice shots coming out from InCheck to take down Team Casito. Only one player left up. It's going to be Bran. He's just laying prone, using the smokes for cover, but that zone is just creeping its way in, and you got to imagine they are worried about a hard shift away from them. Alcudia, though, they are not just fighting one team, they're fighting a second. First knock comes out from Rello, looking to try and follow it up with more, but it's not quite to be. The frag grenade does get returned, followed by a flash. I don't think it's going to be enough to finish the job, but Team Mirror certainly doing everything they can to avoid Alcudia getting any more aggressive onto this position, using that third person, trying to get the early read, hopefully trying to get a player back up, but needs to be very careful about exposing himself here.
Alazine even backs away, gets behind the vehicle for extra cover. The pressure from Alcudia is really all that powerful. And you can see Alcudia on the map. They're actually quite spread out. D's not even on the minimap. He's that far towards the east. They're still trying to hold on to a lot of space. Typhon? Wait, how did Typhon lose to 55? They had a man advantage there, but we'll get back to that later. Potentially dangerous, trying to approach onto Luminosity. Gats goes down to Gabriel, but a massive damage sent in return, likely from a separate angle. Probably OMG would be my guess.
Slabby doing what he can with the nades. Really needs to try and get one through that top doorway, but it's closed up right now. Potentially dangerous, just playing this dip for all they can. We spoke about the 55 fight. Valiate is just doing Valiate things over here, by the way. He's already third-partied onto this, got himself to a knock. I think there's only one player left up now from 55 as RNG, oh no, Valiate, he nearly gets caught out. He has the tree for cover, going to throw up that shield for a little bit of extra safety, but oh my god, it's just putting on the pressure right now. Valiate needs to try and get over to safety, and he's out to the blue zone, so we'll see him again in 15 minutes.
Likely running back to the death boxes to grab some extra heals.
And to finish off 55.
Points. Yes, that too.
Yeah, just standard Valiate plays. He does actually go down to the zone. I think he maybe got a little bit too much damage taken from that final 55 player before he was able to pick up 15 first aid kits.
Right? Hey, not on Team Empire anymore, but the strategy still remains. Forever, they're struggling to find a spot to hang out in. This area northeast of Hacienda, you see people try and set up camps like on that ridge line, but the angle from Finalitza is too powerful. Alcuzia just to the south of them, but otherwise, everyone is in Hacienda itself. It's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams here, not to mention Sparking just out towards the west.
Surprise Sparkin's still alive. You saw how low his health was. Just able to pop the heal in time, but that zone is creeping in. He needs to come over this ridgeline sooner or later, hoping that maybe the fire coming out between Potentially Dangerous and LG might be enough to provide a little bit of safety. Slabby closing in as the frags come through. A little bit of damage connects, but not enough to convert to anything serious. I say that, but the BZ Nane, it finishes off the Bizzler, as now LG are eliminated. Potentially Dangerous finally have themselves some hard cover that they have worked so hard to get a hold of. And I mean, if PUBG says anything, it's now going to be eliminated, and it hard shifts down to the opposite side. You got to think how Kudsia have a massive advantage here with the amount of zone control they've got. I think the question in my mind is, how do they play around DIY now? Do they group up to him? Do they leave him out there, just play solo and call out any crosses before they come through? It looks, in fact, like they are going to try and group up and get a little bit more proactive with things, but Roth is going to anchor behind, using that hard cover to make sure no one flanks around them.
It's not just D with an angle onto FIM, it's also the entirety of Toyo. That position's not even in the zone, but I'm looking at the map and we're seeing how everyone's still stuck on their edge fights. No one wants to go into the middle because of how little cover there actually is. There is that one 4-barrel like Lego piece, looking at it from the top down, that you can play out of, but even that's not great. Besides, at this point, so many teams are already stuck in these engagements. Might as well try and go for the kills where you can, and then play in edge towards center. Roth of the anchor, just spawn things out in the west.
I gotta think now for a lot of these squads, it's just a case of kind of waiting until that zone is almost on your back and you are forced to take these fights. You don't want to be the first team to push because then you pinch. You don't want to be, you know, the second team to push because then you're getting pinched from two sides. It's nobody really likes this position if you're down by Hacienda right now, so it is going to be a really scrappy fight, but Potentially Dangerous is still trying to put in work, still trying to connect with some damage, and Cowboy able to do significant damage, maybe not so much, onto FIM as they crash straight up to the rock, and they've actually managed to get themselves a tiny bit of hard cover. It's not going to be enough for Unhappy as he gets caught with the headshot by Rello. More fire coming through, but I don't expect Alcuzia to be able to flush these out just yet. It might actually be that team coming over the top. It's Toyo Esports that could be the ones to third party.
Yeah, and you can see Alcuzia instantly putting their angles that direction. They don't want to lose these points. They only have 2 kills, and for Alcuzia, this is pretty low for as active as they have been in the early game, but they have 4 people alive, so let's see how much late game damage they can really do. Toyo are pulling away from that angle. FIM do get annihilated by Alcuzia, but that fight over to the west is really starting to explode right now. It's about 5 different teams all engaged with each other. OMG get taken out by in check. Potentially Dangerous looking to be dropping in only a few more moments themselves, as it is just Slabby left standing. And Toyo, they are on a mission. 10 kills for them so far. About to make that 11 with the elimination of Potentially Dangerous. Top 4 confirmed. 4v4, v4, v3. So a lot of players still left alive. But the momentum is riding Toyo right now.
Capitan trying to peek over the top, not able to get anything in check. Are going to move further down to the south. They aren't quite in zone where they are, but it looks like they have managed to send a player a little bit further, so they should be able to have themselves a little bit of a ridge line. They're not getting fire put upon them just yet as the circle gets ready to shift. It goes down to the south, and yeah, this is about the worst zone possible if you're anyone other than Alcuzia right now. There is so little cover to be able to play out of. I don't think Mirror are even in, so they're probably going to have to try and cross over this road, which is wide open. They've taken so many fights so far on this southern side. You can't imagine their smoke situation is going to be great. They're going to be in real trouble. I think the only bit of hard cover they have is actually the airdrop in front of them.
Yeah, you might be right. And just looking at where in-check are, that sort of plateau, you might see it as high ground. Ooh, that's valuable. Let's play that. But it's so open, you might as well be on flat ground. I agree. I think Alcuzia, it's going to be on them to actually have to lose this game considering the angles that they have. And Toyo, they're aware of that as well. They're just trying to push onto in-check, but it's not just Alcuzia, it's Mira with angles on that position. So they're going down. Capitan gets killed by Andrew. Relo gets a knock onto Emmy, stolen by Andrew. So good kill points going the way of InCheck, regardless of their relatively weaker position.
Oh no, but now they're being pinched. Look at this, Mirror closing in. Flashbang comes out. It's too little too late though, as LFP pops up, takes down 2. Fana finishing off the job as well. There's only 1 player left up from InCheck. He's going to be inside the smoke, doing what he can to make something out of it. Fana flushes out yet another. I'm not sure whether they have the read on just how close this final player is, but look at this. It's Alcudzia. Roth with a beautiful frag grenade to do a lot of damage here. It is a util battle, and Alcudzia, they are just taking the center of the circle. They want to end this game quickly. They're not resting on their laurels as they close up. Roth gets aggressive, but is now spotted out. The rest of the squad, though, they have the high ground. They've completely exposed themselves to the final Toyo player. It's going to be Benja with the spray, and the nade takes down 2. Alcudzia, they have gone from potentially the game winners to now the team that is retreating for cover with only 2 players left up. Sure, they don't have a huge disadvantage, but they've been caught off guard. You've got to imagine they're panicking.
They wanted the kills, but you're right, they might have just thrown the game. And now we're looking at Mira, the one team that we thought was actually in the worst position. The quick arrival onto the hilltop, and now they're the only team left with 4, but amazing spray, amazing work still coming out from Benya. Target back on Roth and D, last 2 members of Alcudzia. Great headshot, let's go for more. Don't stop here, Toyo.
Position is spoken about so much in PUBG, but when you got a player like Benya hitting shots like that, yeah, it counts for nothing. Beautiful headshot, but he's only got 11 bullets left. He needs to make something out of this. Drop that second weapon. Use that ammo. 21 bullets in reserve now. It's a 1 versus 1, but they're going to be going for the res. Benya needs to close this up quick, but he's focused on the boost instead. Neither of these teams are inside zone now. They are both out in what will become the blue. Benya's got to get the read. He knows that they've got the revive by this point. Just trying to salvage any points that he can, but only 32 bullets left in the clip. He needs to hit a lot more of those headshots that he's been able to so far, trying everything he can to find a little bit of an angle, but unfortunately, he's going to have to move before either of the Mirror players have to. I think we've got an MVP already, Cammy, but the flashbang comes out. This could be the opportunity to push, only if he lands it in the right spot, though.
Yeah, no frags, no mollies, no blue zones, no aggressive utility. And he should know that Fana spotted him out with that initial peek as he looked to try and confirm that other bleeding out player from the side of Mira. Instead throwing a pan over, just going for fishing, see what he can find with it. Making sure that he's not getting flanked towards his west. High tension now as Mira, they know the angle that he's going to be coming from. Going to try and take a low side angle. Proning down, but seems to be spotted, seems to be called. Flash comes out. He gets information on 1, he gets information on 2, has to pull the gun out! Able to get the knock on 1, but the response is there too fast, so Mira are able to come out on top with this. But man, what a run Toyo gave us. 15 kills, even with 2nd place. Massive game.
Benya just stole the show. With those shots, the number of just like 3 bullet kills he was just able to get with such limited ammo, I really thought he was going to be able to get it. I think it was the revive that was the difference maker right there. If he had maybe got a little bit more aggressive, he might have come out on top of that. But unfortunately, he didn't have the ammo. He didn't have the information. He did what he could, and he was still able to get a knock going into the end of the game. Part of me has to think, do you think that maybe, oh, it's a 1v1. I got the kill. I've won the game. And then the second player peeks out. I don't think that was what was going on. But, you know, when you're in a high-pressure situation like that, the thought has to cross your mind sometimes. I know that would have happened to me anyway.
Yeah. The second that everything... oh, yeah, we saw... sorry, just a brief little tangent. Valier got dropped. Almost got taken out by 55. So it was really close and not a surprise that he went down to the blue. But, man, Mira... they were quite quiet for a lot of the game. Early game, mid game, sort of just chilling in their compound, chilling in their position. But this fast roll up that led to this position, to this situation, won them the entire game. And even though it was a lower amount of kills, 10 points at the end, we'll still take it.
Really, really impressive. I do want to take a sidetrack for a second now. I see a lot of people asking in chat, because obviously we're not used to watching TPP too much right now. Whatever you guys are seeing on your screen when you're spectating these players, that is what the players are seeing. So if you're watching in third person, they're playing in third person. If you're watching in first person, they're playing in first person. And I mean, it really shows just how well some of these teams are able to just adapt between the two of them. And, you know, Toyo, they didn't get the win, but I gotta say, they are the team that have impressed me most in that previous this game, just from the way they were able to make the most out of seemingly nothing. And Alcurtia, that is just so disappointing for them. I don't think they realized that final Toyo player was there, and even if they did, I don't think they expected him to be able to do that much damage.
Yeah, this is a huge disparity. We've seen teams that get the chicken dinner don't get the leaderboard win, because points is really what matters. 5-point difference, that's huge. That's massive. Really good run by Toyo. But regardless, good kill points, good pickups by a couple of different teams, but you can see the point gain just completely drop off the cliff once you leave the top 4 or top 5.
Yeah, it was significant drop off, but unfortunately that's the way it goes sometimes when you get circles that are so unpredictable. And I mean, that was not a circle I don't think anyone would have predicted off of phase 1. It's bound to happen. You're going to have teams that struggle with the rotate. It was such an open area of the map, not a huge amount to play out of. And the teams that were able to get those positions and make something out of it, they reap the rewards this match.
Yeah, well, that was just a warm-up. I imagine for a lot of these teams. It was only map number 1 of our 4-map series tonight. We move on to, I believe, Tago coming up next. Before that, we're going to go to a quick break. So go replenish your refreshments and be back in a few.
Big updates to map consistency, an expansion of the recall system, and the results of those aim punch tests. All this and more as we dive into the update 35.1 patch report. First up, as we talked about in the 2025 roadmap, we're starting our big moves towards standardizing key gameplay elements of the Battlegrounds experience. This will be a phased approach over the next several updates, and we'll begin with items. You'll see things like the zipline gun, emergency cover flare, and stun gun appearing across all Battlegrounds, while things like the thermal scope and blue chip transmitter are being removed everywhere. Take a look at the roadmap for all of our upcoming plans, or the patch notes to see the specifics of this first set of changes. Another way we're unifying the experience is by expanding the recall system to all maps, which means it's now available on Karakin and Paramo. Each map will have its own specifics for the system, so check out the patch notes for details. We're looking forward to seeing how these changes shift strategy on these maps. Next, thanks to your great testing and feedback, we're ready to implement the new aim punch system to live. We're going live with the settings from our last gunplay labs, and are looking forward to hearing your feedback on the system in the live environment. Last but not least, we're making audio adjustments based on your feedback, such as your shooting, driving, and the mortar explosions. Let us know how it sounds. There's also a new contender system in the workshop, a new survivor pass, more improvements to custom match, a new rank season, and more. So check out the patch notes for full details. Update 35.1 is here, so hit up a blue chip tower, call in some friends, and give your enemies a personalized lesson on how aim punch works. We'll see you on the Battlegrounds.
Hey everyone, it was an explosive game number 1 on Miramar with Toyo really taking the reins of that game, just barely not coming out with the win despite a noble pick one effort by Benya. Still, really good run by Toyo regardless, but a good secure by Mira to get the points that they could with that chicken dinner. Cameron Davis, Chunks, I do real quick before we start to talk about Tago, which is coming up next, I do want to make a quick little correction. The qualification for this weekend and next weekend as well, these next 2 cups is not for the Masters, it's going to be for a Super Cup. So just a little bit of a correction, but also type register in the chat for more information about getting involved yourself if you want to play. This is a very, very accessible event, even by PUBG standards, which all opens are accessible, but still, this is a new sort of area. We're still figuring out how this plays out, and so you can also join us with that experiment and see how much you like to play competitive third-person PUBG. Did I cover everything, Chunks? Anything I
think that's everything. The only thing to note, by the way, is if you do want to register, you have to be over 16 years of age. That's the only prerequisite to be able to take part. If you're not in Americas, there's a players tour going on in every region, so get yourself signed up. It is a super awesome experience to get involved in competitive PUBG, especially if you are a player that has traditionally only played TPP. You've been interested in competitive, but thought, hey, this isn't for me. I don't want to switch over to FPP. So it's the perfect opportunity to get involved. But you mentioned it, Cammy. It is time for Tago. Now, I'm not sure how things went in the Masters, but I can speak from experience. The previous 2 Players Cups, we have not had a Tago match without 2 or 3 early games fights.
I don't think we saw that many hot dropping. Most of the hot drop watch was on Miramar between, you guessed it, Luminosity and 55. But I'm looking at some of the plane paths here. Sorry, the parachute paths here. Mira and Ford is like especially. I don't think anything happening down south.
See, this is what caught me off, because it wasn't necessarily the hot drops. It was teams would drop in, everything would be fine. They go center circle early on, grab whatever compound was in the center, even if it wasn't up to much, and then you had 1, 2, 3 teams pushing into it, and wow. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams trying to make early game rotations after this one. I can imagine a lot of E pickups coming into use right now, and you know, even though we said there weren't many hot drops, there's a lot of, I think, 3 squads all landing on a single road at this point.
I think, yeah, if you were planning on hot dropping, don't, because this circle is very hard to get into. It's an open field in the dead center, unless you're in the actual airport itself. I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of fighting over the high grounds to the west of the fields, which I guess are more central, but man, I'm excited to see how this one plays out. It's been a while since I've seen an Eastern Tago zone like this, and I certainly haven't seen one in TPP yet, so we'll see how things change.
I certainly
here.
haven't casted one either. I mean, you know, this is I took a bit of a break for a while, and you know, it's only one of my first Tago games back in the grand scheme of things. So
right.
I'm really interested to see how this one plays out. I will say we did see one where it did take up a lot that kind of eastern river area in the I think it was the first day of the first Players Cup, and that one was so messy. I mean, just 5, 6 squads going into that final couple of phases, all just playing the same kind of ridgeline, popping up over each other one at a time. But at that point, they were still feeling out the TPP aspect,
right.
It almost seems like. And I think that now that we're seeing teams develop and get more used to it, it's going to be interesting to see how things evolve, not only throughout the weeks, but, you know, as we go on later into the tour, and just see how teams are able to adapt, how they're able to adjust their gameplay, and whether we are going to see any major differences. Because I got to say, so far, it doesn't feel like there have been any kind of radical changes to how teams are playing. It was all very much take those FPP strategies, move them into third person, and kind of work on those micro strategies. But I want to see if there are going to be any major changes in how team approach these really open circles.
Yeah, I think it'll be a while before we identify major meta changes like what you're discussing. The macro in Battle Royale is the same, whether it's first person or third person. The early game approach is usually the same. The major difference is just pushing a compound and pushing any position at all. It's just a higher degree of defender advantage, which is why we already saw not just the previous events, but also the very first game, and we're definitely going to continue to see more emphasis on not just early game, but also edge fighting. But outside of that, it's not going to be, we're not playing a different game here. But
no, I mean, the fundamentals always remain the same, right? But it's about just being able to make those micro adjustments when you come across them.
I think he hit that rock. I'm looking. They stopped driving on the map. They definitely hit that rock. They were on trajectory.
It's something about Tago, I swear. Every time we have a Tago game, it's just a mess early on.
Some shots coming out from Mira. Winners of our previous round. Forever also spying, seeing if this Hannah Dorito can't get a nice bolty kill. Luminosity were zipping around All these teams instantly trying to grab a central position. No one's gone to the fields around airport, which doesn't surprise me. You really want to avoid fields if you can. But Liquid now pulling up, catching a member of Mira running out in the open. Can't quite get the knock.
I told you. It's these early game fights on Tago. I don't know what it is. Everyone just goes dead center, and they just tend to kick off like this. I mean, nothing kind of solid coming out just yet, but Alo is doing everything he can to find that opening, to find that knock, and look how limited his ammo actually is. It's not going to matter when you get knocked like that, but Kurt is there to be able to trade, throws out a Molotov to try and flush out the kill, but it's not going to be enough, and that nade, well, it does a hell of a lot of damage right now. Team Liquid in a little bit of trouble. He's going to try and close the distance. The Molotov making it hard to see that player as he runs out of ammo, drops down prone, goes to the reload. It's only going to take one more bullet from either side to finish off the job, but the rest of Mira, they've closed in. They're going to be here for support. Purdy Curdy only has himself a little push for cover. The Sparking pushes in, gets himself the flush, has now given away his position as well, and the nade lands right on top of his head. A Team Liquid losing a second player, only 2 left up, and you got to think that Sparking is beyond safety right now. And I mean, just look at the map. There are so many teams around this. I'm surprised that we haven't seen anyone else crash onto this already.
No one's crashed, but Duel are taking shots. That's what forced Kurt away. I really like this approach by Liquid, trying to stay in front of Mira's reactions, be hyper-aggressive and catch them off guard. But just barely, they were not able to hold on to it. Frag grenades are very lethal, no matter what stage of the game you're talking about. Mira lose 1, Liquid lose 1. I think Mira might be looking to pull away. It's gotten a bit too hot. I don't think Liquid are going to be particularly upset about that themselves. As more and more teams are arriving, you see multiple E pickups in the sky. One team just passed all the way over, so things could be getting even hotter from here as we see Finn with getting a couple of kills in the kill feed.
I'm not sure whether you can see the map right now, but they are about as far away as you can imagine. They're down at Songam on the very southern tip. Valiate is really taking those Empire strategies from the last couple of weeks and trying his best to implement them right now, taking those early game fights far outside, and I'm sure that whichever team comes out on top is going to be spending a lot of the time in the blue. As Mira, they backed away. They're going to make this into more of a long-range engagement, but there it is, the emergency pickup coming over the top as in check. They're going to be getting some long-range fire taken onto them. Brand gets an opening knock, almost follows it up with the second after a really well-placed headshot, but not able to convert. Do Team Quesito push onto this? You'd imagine that they do with the position that they have. They've got a nice spread. They could potentially send Robert round the other side, but it looks like he's going to focus on providing a bit more support than getting aggressive as Brand gets ready to move away.
Take those tires. And then just back out. Yeah, not overcommitting to this fight. Always a risk of someone arriving from their south. Not exactly a missed opportunity. But I think Team Casito would have preferred if they were able to get more out of that. But still a good call to pull away. Not overcommit. Potentially dangerous. This was the first team, I believe, to take an E pickup. They landed in airport itself, but they're not the only team here. OMG have also arrived. And I think they were the second E pickup team. And they came in after. So the fact that they landed without getting a single casualty against them, I think is quite fortunate. And you can see Onetavan having to pay some attention towards the east. It's not exactly a safe space anymore. They thought it was going to be free. Their backside, I think, is focused across that field. But with OMG pitted behind them, they're going to have to be worried about a wider angle of influence than they otherwise, I imagine, would have wanted to.
I think that's the unfortunate thing about these compounds. It's sure they're great for hardcover, but there's so much open terrain around you that it is very easy for, if you expose yourself from the wrong angle, for a squad that could be, a kilometer away to land those long-range DMR shots and do a little bit of damage is potentially dangerous. Super split up inside of here. I think they maybe think there are more teams in this area than there actually are right now, but it's better that you play passive and don't overextend early on. Yeah. Try and gather that info for those teams that could be rotating in. It's 55 following the trend right now. They've got themselves some hard cover. They're still getting proactive with it. Maybe not necessary given the current circle, but it's not a bad thing if they are confident that the area is clear and they're not going to lose players on these scout positions.
30 seconds left till we see phase 2. All this talk that we had in the beginning of the game over is going to be the airport field, it's going to be the hills, it's going to be that river. So much can still change. Phase 1 is about setting yourself up for the setup for the rest of the game.
I just want to see a hard shift down to the south because I'm evil like that. I just want to see all of these teams have to play over that
airport
river,
finish.
over that single hillside. We'll see. I mean, the phase about to pop. I think regardless of where it goes, no team is going to have it easy. And wow,
oh god,
okay, this is it's another one of those. Is it just going to be one of those days where we just get like the most unexpected, most brutal circles? Because we saw that in game number 1. It seems like it's starting to become a bit of a trend.
I won't call it until we see it on Rondo. And breaking that magnet that is the center of the map, that's the big test. That would be the big tell for how cursed the teams are today or not. Mira trying to drive on through, driving past Forever. Some shots ringing out, but nothing lethal. They're trying to make a break for the northern side of this circle, and they need to because of that hard shift. Alcutsia, the only team that was actually already up there. Everyone else is basically driving this northern trajectory.
How do you approach this, though, as an IGL? Honestly, like, when you've kind of solidified over in that city and now you're realizing that it's very unlikely to actually be that city. Obviously, you know, I'd say, like, what, a third of the playable circle is actually cut out by just being outside of the... Oh, no, Bizzler's in trouble. He should be able to get a pickup, though, if he doesn't get shot from long range. We knew it was going to be a difficult rotate, but, I mean, flipping the vehicle isn't something that you ever want to happen to you, especially in a circle like this. Mira, they've been able to get themselves a knock, and it's more vehicle trouble for Typhon right now. Not the best start to the evening, but we saw that in the first Players Cup, and look how they were able to rebound in the end. Potentially dangerous, in a lot of danger. Everyone is just scrambling for any hard cover they can find right now.
Timing is a really big factor, and Typhon, their timing was just a little bit too slow. They didn't get beat to that position, but they did get kneecapped on the way through. Slabby goes down. The vehicle's in the way, going to make it difficult to revive him, depending on where the angle that knock came from. Luminosity deciding to stay in this position where Bizzler, well, not far from where Bizzler unfortunately flipped that vehicle. It's quite free, all things considered. Looking at the overall map, most players and teams are still favoring the airport area of the zone, favoring towards the east. Not a lot of teams playing up in these hills.
I do have to wonder, are they favoring it, or are they just afraid to move? And I know that if I was in this position... I think for a lot of these squads, it's just a case of waiting and hoping that the circle somehow comes back to you. But look at this from Oh My God. They have just dodged a bullet right there. 1604, not getting spotted out on the rotate. He's called it out to the rest of the squad who are further in the compound, but they're already preoccupied, worrying about in check. As the underarm frag comes out, they are going to be able to get the distance for Hopper. Perhaps one of his own, getting ready to throw it over the wall. I don't think it's quite close enough to connect, but now... Oh my God, are in a little bit of trouble. They've got a couple of teams around them they need to try and navigate, and I mean, they are very split off right now. They've only got 2 players together at the moment. The other 2 are all the way up on the northeast.
Dudu goes down to 1604. It's full confirmed. So OMG, they're kind of fighting a couple of different angles, a couple of different fronts, but the amount of cover that they have, they don't seem to be too worried. Certainly not this central set. The grenades coming out from FIM are not finding their targets, but smokes are already out. Finalitza might want to try and get away from this situation, especially with the eastern pair of OMG closing on in. Another hard shift. This one northwest in the hills. And OMG get yet another knock.
And all of these squads now going to be forced to fight as they have to try and rotate their way through with dual just gatekeeping, raining shots already down onto Team Liquid as soon as they heard those vehicles starting to turn on and make a move. Oh my God. Really nice nade usage. It was a little bit late, though, to be able to connect onto FIM. As J0809 is going to move up that wall, try and provide a bit of an entrance for his squad as the mortars rain down. That's got to be dual, right? There's like, who else would be throwing down mortars in a position like this? Just set up that red zone, prevent teams from making the move. And I do have to wonder, has that glider still got health? And is there going to be a player that hops into it to try and make a getaway here?
I think it has health, but whether it can get up to speed and up in the air before getting taken down, that's the different question. Liquid now sending it through from Moss by Onai Tavan. Found some damage, didn't get the knock, but we'll see if that loosened Liquid up for the next players in the firing range. Brand goes down to Gabriel. Team Casino I want to say they should be able to get that revive, and here comes Luminosity catching Liquid on the arrival.
Really nice from Bizzler to be able to third-party onto that, and he's third-partying onto a whole other set of players now. Nearly takes down one from Casito, not quite enough. Follows it up with the second, but still not able to finish the job. Nice nades coming out from Robert to take down Purdy Curdy. Luke 12 is still up, crawling for cover, but not for long, as Snaker's now to fall. Casito putting in work. Stark contrast to what we saw in the previous game. It's H11, throws down a frag. Is it going to connect to Roth? Not quite close enough. And it forces Alcudia away, but he's not going away unscathed as he takes a decent chunk of damage. Cowboy's doing what he can from the rock to try and get a read, but 55, they're letting him know that they know exactly where he is, and he better not peek.
Halo hiding out in the shack. Only option they have. Last player left for Liquid. And I imagine it's going to get much messier here before it stops. A lot of teams are still in the field. A little bit, yeah, for now.
For now. I wouldn't expect any squads to actually push onto him just yet, just because of how tight things are. They'd have to completely expose themselves to be able to make the move. Just as Fim now, they're exposed in that open field, but potentially dangerous, to trying their best to punish them, doing what they can to land shots. It's Samcro with the spray, as Gabriel tries to flush it out, not quite able to. Samcro finishing off the job. First kill of the game now for Typhon, as he looks for the second. Doesn't know exactly where 9 is, maybe thinks he's a bit closer, but no, he throws out the nade. It's just going to be a little bit wide. The circle, it finally centers up, which is something I'm not used to saying so far this evening. But LG, they've got prime position, but they've got a lot of squads that are going to be working up these ridge lines behind them. 55 Esports in a red zone battle up against In Check. It's trade for trade. T-Plens takes down one. Backy looking to try and get himself the revive, as Mixtall on the off angle tries to finish off the final player. He does a lot of damage, but it's not close enough. Now potentially dangerous. They're closing in from the south as well. T-Plent just using the vehicle for cover, needs to try and get Backy back up. It's not going to happen at this rate though. There's now Alcudia a third party in on this. This is an absolute mess on the edge of the zone, and this isn't the only 4-team fight we've got going on. Further down to the site, potentially dangerous, have now crashed on to Typhon as well.
No one wants to go to the center of the zone. Everyone's stuck on the edge, and you would expect to see this in a zone like this in FPP. War Utility comes out from 55. Typhon get eliminated. Slabby with the final kill onto that squad. And then Mixall spotted. Took a bullet from somewhere. T-Plens is searching. T-Plens is looking. Unbeknownst to him. Okay, there it is. Mixall found the last player of Incheck. They get annihilated. They go out to 55. 4 points for them. Only 2 up. And now dual roll on in. Was that a team knock?
It was a
little
team
bit
kill.
of a confusion.
I think he was going for the spray onto the vehicle, but his player, Spectro, just jumped out in front. They've got to try and get the revive now, but K-Man's low enough, so IQ's just going to have to hold that left side of the vehicles, doing what he can to provide cover. He's not able to connect with any shots. Looks like that was probably a flashbang. Nice headshot onto K-Man, though. Low HP. Could he clutch this out?
Surely.
Does. IQ falls as well. There's only one player left up from Duel, and, well, they're nowhere to be found. That's got to be the end of them, unless this solo can somehow sneak in. Fedoras also goes down. And finally, we might see things start to slow down, at least until this circle solidifies, as all of those cluster fights are just slowly finishing up. Teams are now in a position where they're just focusing on regrouping and seeing how they take that next step into the zone. Wooly being the final player left up from Duel, not able to make it on the rotate, caught out of the vehicle, and that is them down in 12th.
OMG now, they E picked up the airport, and then they E picked up to the west of the zone. Got a couple of kills. Now they're just going to be holding on that western edge. Team Casito looking towards Alcudia, but Roth takes Bale down. Should be able to get this revive. Cruxia is left alone in the shack. They weren't able to get the revive on that first knock player of theirs that we saw a few minutes ago. And Luminosity, despite being in a strong position, only had the opportunity for 1 kill so far. But I imagine that that is likely going to change as teams are going to slowly get funneled up to their position. Assuming they're still inside the zone when Phase 5 gets revealed. Cowboy shots Puts another member of Team Casito, but not able to do too much damage. I say that for that player. The rest of Alcudsia ascended on the rest of the set. And now Team Casito go down. A full annihilation, 6 points for Cudsia.
Really good positioning here from Alcudsia. They do need to be cautious of potentially dangerous. They're the only team that can really cause a threat here. But with Cowboy playing behind, it should be enough to kind of anchor and make sure they're not able to push up from an angle where Alcudsia aren't going to be expecting it from. They send Gabriel in with the vehicle straight towards Alo's shack. He's going to try and land a spray. Does a little bit of damage, makes his presence known. But honestly, when you get only one player spraying you, I think a lot of teams would see that almost like a dinner bell, and I imagine the rest of potentially dangerous are going to try and move into this compound sooner or later, providing they don't hear more fights coming out of there, because they've identified at this point there is only a solo there, so they're going to bear that in mind as we get later into the game.
I mean, with eyes on... I believe that was Mira, and now Luminosity eyes on OMG. Here's a Luminosity are going to be really hoping to get the points this round. We know Luminosity, if they can make it to the end game, they're usually good for the full win. And this is the first real test now. Gats swinging up from the low side, trying to go for a flank. Playing in first person. There it is. Yeah, bringing out that third person camera. Try and peek over this hill. Heard some footsteps, and Prone's down, knows the big threats right in front of him. The rest of the team is trying to be a bit of a distraction. And now Gats strikes, finds one.
He has the read on the rest of the squad from those teammates up the hillside. Tries to go for the spray through the smoke. He's not able to connect, but now the shots do get returned. Gats prepping an underhand nade, trying to force them off of this rock, using that height to his advantage. Maybe looking in case there's a second player where that first one got knocked, but as Bizler spots out the rotate further down, he's got to be gathering that intel, realizing they're playing this hillside for everything that they can. The smoke's starting to dissipate. OMG have backed away, but that is a big bit of util coming out. It's not quite enough to connect. Gats now finally does get flashed.
Look at the minimap. Alcudsia are rolling on up. Luminosity, they need to finish this fight fast. They have the kills. There it is. In the span of like 2 seconds, the rest of OG do go down, but Rello spots Gats out. But I don't think Alcudsia have the timing. Luminosity were able to finish that fight just in time to keep themselves from being completely rolled over by Alcudsia, but they're still looking for it. They're still looking for the angle.
They've learned from their mistake in game number 1. They're being a little bit more cautious with the way that they play this now. They've still got Roth anchoring behind. They shouldn't be getting third-partied. At the end of the day, this is a 3v4 fight. LG don't have too much info, but I think anything Alcudsia previously had has now been lost as they were rotating over.
Phase 6. Kind of center, a bit towards the east. Medium shift, one would say. So that makes Roth's anchor position for the rest of Alcudsia incredibly valuable. Problem is, Roth, if he gets pushed, the rest of Alcudsia are going to wish they were back there to support. And I think they're going to be pulling away just for that threat alone. Luminosity now also falling back towards the south. Alo, dead center of the zone, still has yet to get pushed. So Liquid are in the process of farming up placement points at the very least.
It's difficult, though, at this point. You know, for a team like Alcudsia, they want to get aggressive. But their position right now is just so strong that maybe it is a bit of a waiting game. You don't want to overpeak, because as soon as you come over this ridgeline, you've got what? LG, you've got potentially Dangerous, all just looking directly your way. You've made so much noise. LG, they should be able to play just the edge of this compound for the time being. Toyo, Capitan, has got a whole other set of priorities. Forced to maybe give away some footsteps. I don't think Mira heard them, though. I don't think they're going to have a read on exactly where that player is. I think they're going to assume that there's going to be someone sneaking up behind. But that's a bit of emergency cover coming in. It might just be enough to help them rotate out of here. Capitan throws out the nade. It's really nicely placed, but just a little bit too far. Spray comes through. The position's given away. The rest of Toyo now need to try and get involved in this one. It can't just be a solo effort when you're taking a compound like this. Emmy from the off angle throws in even more util. The smokes are up for that extra cover, but potentially Dangerous causing a huge problem here. Every time that Capitan peeks, he's just getting peppered with shots. It's not worth it to peek over this rock almost. You got to think, Toyo, they just have to commit onto this.
They're hoping for a knock. They're hoping for some way to enter in, but it might just have to be through brute force. Emmy almost finds an angle. Only drops them down to half. And now Pippa going down to Fana. A throwaway grenade gets the trade on the Kawazine. So at the very least it's 1-for-1, but it's still looking at both Luminosity and potentially Dangerous to foil whatever attempt by whatever team here on the South. Mira and Toyo are both quite locked in, even if they are able to come out on top in this particular engagement.
It's still not ideal for either squad. Sure, you've got yourself some hard cover for the time being, but as soon as you actually have to push out of here, you're going to have some problems, especially when you haven't cleaned up that other team in the compound alongside you. The smokes are there for a little bit of extra protection. But it's not going to do much when the team ahead of you has the high ground. Frag comes out from Slabby. Maybe a little bit too early, but potentially dangerous. They've got the read on this. They go for the spray. They get a knock, and they're going to be looking to get a whole lot more. Emmy goes down to the zone. Going to deny the point and allow everyone else to move up the placement ever so slightly. A beautiful frag coming out there from the high ground. Not able to get a knock, but slowing down Mira's opportunity to be able to actually move further in as potentially dangerous. They provide pressure from one angle. Luminosity doing it from another. Bizzler's got super aggressive onto this as the frag finishes off the job. He's looking for a second. He's now spotted out the potentially dangerous player, almost switching his attention away, but still being wary that there are points that can be gathered down the hill. Gats gathers 2 of them, and that's Mira out in 5th place.
9 kills for Luminosity. Only a few minutes ago they had 1. And they're going to be looking to see if they can't swing this into a full chicken dinner, but looking at this zone, looking at this final spot, final area of the map where Blue is going to be ending up on. It's all going to be Al-Qudsiya. They're on the low ground, potentially dangerous, especially Onaitan on this rock is looking really good information-wise, good for cover. It's all about who can get the kills. And who's going to find Ayla? The last member of Liquid has just been farming this entire time. Jump spotting out that window. He knows Luminosity is going to be coming up from that angle, from that direction. Can he get a couple of kills on his way out?
I mean, right now, if you're Alo, just keep your head down. Hope that you can get a couple more placement points. Just, you got to be cautious of LG. That's the big one here. I don't expect any other team to really push on to this single shack. I think it's LG that are the threat. He's got himself a barrel, got himself a shotgun, and he is just going to make the most out of this smoke as long as he can. LG, they're going to use a different set of util now. Snakers with the P90 looking to try and close the distance. It'll be made a whole lot easier with an aid like that, but Cowboy being a thorn in the side now, catching them from behind. Not enough to do significant damage, but at least enough to force them and directly into this fight as Vox goes down. Bizzler's there for the trade. Nades popping off, but the smokes are there to break the angles. They don't know exactly where these potentially dangerous players are as Niviton pops out. Lands one, follows it up with a second. Absolutely huge. Gat's able to salvage it, but is he going to be able to get any more teammates up? It isn't looking like it with the way that Al-Qudsiya are pushing onto this. They now are in a 1 versus 4 situation. Gats is doing everything he can, but we cannot forget about Alo here. If there's a player who wants to take this fight, you've got to imagine it's him. He's getting ready to open up out of the shack. Rello has no idea. He thinks it's just a 1 versus 4. He's jumped into the vehicle, hopped out, managed to get the knock. That is absolutely huge. LG full. Alo's made it into 2nd place for his team. He's confirmed the flush. Alo, he needs to heal. He needs to get some health. As Al-Qudsiya, they've been caught off guard, but they still have the numbers in their favor.
Yeah.
And Alo has to make it into the circle.
Al-Qudsiya are going to have to throw this for Alo to come out on top. He was able to get that 1 kill.
They've done it before.
Act of surprise. Well, this is going to have to be even worse. I wouldn't even call that a throw. And through the smoke, D is able to find it. So Al-Qudsiya, they don't get denied the chicken dinner this time around. Good number of kills and a great number of kills for Luminosity as well.
Can you imagine if Alo had managed to clutch that. That would have been the second game in a row where Alcudia looked set to win it, and then a solo just ruined their hopes. Thankfully, though, they left the push late enough. 10 kills and the chicken dinner, alongside the number of kills they were able to get in that first game with the placement points. They're going to be looking really strong for this evening. As we take a look over towards the leaderboards, after the highlights, my mistake, that was just a messy game. I got to say, I called it with Tego, but I think the circle really just amplified everything that we would typically see on this map.
Oh, glad that we get to see this clutch from this POV. It was a 1v2 that looked like a 1 versus 3. But yeah, the real big problem is the teams, no one just wanted to push up that hill. They're all stuck on the low sides, most of them on the east around that field outside of airport. But Luminosity, once they got into the fight, and Gats on this flank did a lot of work for the squad. Got denied the win in the end, but a good number of points themselves, so they should be happy with that.
I mean, anyone would be happy with a performance like that, especially when you think about the fight that they nearly took onto LG is kind of a 3v4. They were really smart in terms of backing away from it when they knew that they had lost the advantage that they previously had. But Alo there, to be able to make it into the late game in that shack for so long was really impressive, especially to be able to pick up an extra kill on the end. And I think the thing that made Alo be able to survive so long is the fact that there were just so many teams around the ridges. That shack was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Nobody was able to push it, even if they wanted to, because they would have just been third, fourth, fifth partied from every possible angle. And you know what? Alcudia, they get the win, but credit to LG for getting 18 points in that match.
Yeah, 20 points, 18 points, and then it kind of drops off a cliff. Alcudia and Luminosity Gaming were doing so much work all themselves, especially in the end game. Mid game was pretty fairly mixed bag in terms of a couple of teams getting kills here and there. And you do expect to see, naturally, the way that leaderboards work, a bit more of a concentration towards the top, but this feels a bit ridiculous. I'm excited to see what it looks like on the overall leaderboard. See how this makes placements. Alcudia with currently standing with 30, Toyo with 26, Mira with 22, and Luminosity with 20. So back and forth for the first couple of games. No one's really taken the lead just yet.
I mean, it's an 8-game format, isn't it? That's something we need to bear in mind here. All it takes is one big game and you get yourself into that top 8, and that's what we're hoping to see from teams like Team Casito, Pure RNG, Duel, Typhon, all those squads down in the bottom half. It's not beyond all reason that they make it through. They still have ample opportunity, and honestly, one big game that gets you up into the top 5 already, so we just got to hope that they're able to pull it off.
An exciting series so far. Miramar, Tego. Now I don't know what to expect from Rondo. I don't even like the conversation around like test track with Rondo anyway. But you know what? I'm just gonna make the call. Let's just go straight to a break. Let's not. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to discuss. We can just wait and see what actually happens there. We have Rondo and then Erangel up left here tonight in the Players Cup. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
We are halfway through the night, a quarter of a way through this weekend to see the first set of top 8 qualifiers to the first Super Cup that we have coming up in a couple of weeks' time. At the moment, in the overall leaderboard, Alcudzia are in first place, but not dominatingly so. It's basically a nice little mix of Alcudzia, Toyo, Mira, and Luminosity. But Chunks, like I said, we're only halfway through, quarter of the way through. Things could change, but it's all about making that top 8. So those top 4, at the very least, are feeling quite comfortable, I imagine.
Absolutely, but as we've said so many times before, it only takes that one game and you're all the way up in the top 5 right now. So I really want to see some big things, especially from a squad like Typhon, like Casito, teams that we've seen are able to qualify, are able to put in work at the Masters, and they just want to be able to qualify for that Super Cup early on. And that's the big thing. Take the weight off. You could always play next week if you just want to get the practice, but taking that pressure off, it allows you to focus more on your game.
Yeah, exactly. We're still kind of trying to figure things out in terms of the meta where you want to take fights, where you want to go aggressive. As of now, Liquid, the team that's actually been the most aggressive in the early game, it's only been 2 rounds, so sample size is low, blah, 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 the same caveats every single time. They're getting punished for it, though, and even Alcudzia, which I observed, identified of being incredibly aggressive early on during last weekend's Masters, they're not that aggressive this time around, whether that's due to lack of opportunity or just they're deciding not to. Can't really tell, but it's still about figuring out when to take those fights, and a large part of that is going to be what the map has available, where you think the state of the game is going to be moving through as we head over towards Rondo. And this is a huge map. We see Test Track a lot, but on the opportunities that we go elsewhere, it's quite explosive, and there's a big drop happening at Mall.
That's what you want to see. I mean, it's the heart drops, isn't it? There's not really that, prolonged kind of storyline of, oh, these teams are fighting for heart drops. It's one opportunity. You need to make it count right now. OMG are going to do exactly that. They're playing a little bit slower, but FIM are certainly in a bit of trouble if they don't get that opening knock, especially when you look at the weapons that they actually have.
There's no going down. OMG with a nice little first kill here. Swinging out the shotgun, even holding in first person. I have to imagine that's for comfort. I know people like to go first person when they're indoors, but the hallways in this mall are quite wide that I think third person would still be quite valuable here. But regardless, gets the knock, gets the kill, gets the trade, but they drop with one fewer player to begin with.
I feel like one of the things that is maybe overlooked at times is things that, you know, are maybe even as simple as key bindings. I know that for a couple of players, I'm one of them, they prefer to use the hold right mouse to ADS. And when you're in those close range third-person fights, constantly ADSing, you've got that short animation. It does make a small but noticeable difference as... Oh, come on, let me see that Panzer kill, please. Oh, no, he missed. He's still got the ace in reserve, though.
But still, what an opportunity. Just went a little bit too high. It's always strange when you're trained on trying to hit heads, and then you gotta tell yourself, go for the feet, go for the feet, go for the feet. But Dudu now trying to fake it out, lands the headshot, and there you can see an example of the constant ADS on ADS. Just there. Support arriving with the JS9 coming up the steps, but OMG also have backup. Flash out. Shotgun at the ready, and the jump shotty. Fantastic push.
The shotgun always wins those fights. It's the only real winner as Furhopper. Nice little underarm nade. Almost manages to get himself the knock, just a little bit wide. And after realizing that there is a shotgun up there, he's going to be a whole lot more hesitant about pushing. Nice little flashbang, swings out right, takes him out, but unhappy there for the trade. Following up with a second, but he's only got 5 bullets. It's not going to be enough. OMG coming out on top, but that was a close fight.
Really close fight. But hey, 3 kills for OMG. They lose 2 players in the meantime, and they lose timing on their rotation, as I don't think we had a good shot of Circle 1 on the map because of that hot drop, but they were on the opposite side. It is a far northwestern phase 1. So that position, that mall north of Jadina City, it's going to be a long travel for them. Luminosity fighting over this position to the north of phase 1 with pure RNG. A little bit of damage that we saw onto Valley 8. And Voxix trying to close that distance to get that kill because, as you can see on the map, no one else of pure RNG is in the area.
People always talk about test track, whatever. This is one of those circles where it is anything but. And we knew that the circles so far have been wacky. You finally converted yet as Valley looks to convert a knock over to a kill, but ultimately ends up falling. RNG, they're not going to engage on this anymore. The rest of the team are way too far away. But Cammy, I said it earlier, the circles tonight, they just seem off. I think we might actually be seeing that develop. I think we're going to end up in Zaki next game.
It's Aragel, so there's an 80% chance it's going to be on military.
I mean, we've seen a couple of Prim circles in the previous Super Cups. I think we saw 2 between the 2 weeks, so I'm not going to argue with that. I love those circles. They're horrible for the players, but so much fun to watch.
Oradora is trying to hold down the central position. Put a couple of shots onto Team Casito, but more warning shots, and then if they get a knock there, great. Probably not. Unlikely. They have an E-pickup prepped as well. I think the chances of them needing that are pretty slim, but they're still using this opportunity to flex out, get some extra angles once that they're comfortable that it's safe.
Could always use that E-pickup, get the high ground. Just get, like, the unpushable position. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think we saw a team do that on Tago a couple of weeks ago, and, I mean, they were able to play it until the very late game. Oh, Alo, though, he's been spotted out. Oh, just about makes it out alive.
Oh, actually trading some damage. I don't know who that is from, because potentially Dangerous are also in the area. Kurt taking the roof to check for vehicle pushes. Running with the MP5. Interesting setup. I don't know if that's by choice or by lack of options, as Liquid's loot spot was right in the middle of phase 1, and when you're in that position, you kind of just gotta loot quickly and get to defending your spot. Potentially Dangerous. Can you guys choose a place to land at? They're just driving in circles. Where are they going? I don't even think they know, judging by their rotation.
Scouting. This is next level scouting. They've not got knocked yet, so it's clearly, you know, it's not punish them. They're just scouting out, trying to get a read on where these teams are. I do have to wonder whether they know that they've got to assume it's 2 separate teams now. I think they were just so preoccupied trying to spot out Alo and take him down because, I mean, if you have a player at the top of a cliff like that, everyone is like, that's a free kill. That's a free kill. Let's just focus it.
Right. Well, Alo's managing the space well. A lot of cover with those rocks around the area. Now 55. With potentially Dangerous, the threat of the crash having gone, they can themselves back out and get some more roof positions. Alo still being active, still going for shots. Oh, okay. Get tagged once and you might want to duck down, just because if you do get knocked, the whole team is going to have to send onto your position to get the revive, and you don't want to have to call that, especially when you're in such a good spot like Liquid are.
Toxic not able to convert it to much as Sparking laying up on the roof. I think he was maybe assuming there'd be a squad down there, but not to be. Seeing the gliders in play, I know that, you know, people are torn on the gliders, but I love to see them. You know, they can get you so much info, and we've seen it a few times now where you'll have like 3 players in cars down below, and then just 1 player just a little bit further out in the glider calling out the position, saying this is free, there's a squad over here, and then the players in the cars will just kind of adjust their positions accordingly. There is definitely a time and the place for the glider. I think that in a circle like this, where there are a lot of teams that had to make those wide rotates in, it can be really viable.
Eyes on Typhon now. I've yet to really have a good run of things so far tonight. Slab me with a knock on a Capitan. And good damage still being laid onto Benya. This rotation is similar area that we saw PD drive through, and I don't know, something tells me Toyo is going to be even worse for wear once they're done with it. Ayla with an angle onto the vehicle that's already smoking. These are ambitious rotates. They're going to essentially directly through the map. No one's doing wide wraps around Zhao. They're just sort of sending it through just south of Stadium. So to assume that no one's there, I think is, yeah, it's weird.
Everyone just kind of goes center nowadays. I mean, there was a while, wasn't there, where you found that every single team would play the edge and they were so focused on kind of sweeping and clearing and getting those kills. It feels like, at least in the Players Tour so far, it's the exact opposite. Everyone just wants to go for those central positions. It's almost as if they're less comfortable with taking the fights in third person, which, I mean, for a lot of these squads, they've been playing in FPP for so long. They might just want to go back to the basics, play the compounds, play center. But I think that when there is a team that's confident to sweep out and take those high-risk plays, they're really able to thrive.
Problem is, Toyo are arriving so late. Even surely they don't think that things are going to be free in the center area. They've lost 1 player on their approach, but it's not a bad spot. I wouldn't sacrifice 1 for it. But let's see what they can do from here. Only a couple of seconds left before phase 2. For a second, I thought they were going to try and push on Aphora. Probably looking for a knock to make that call. But right now, it's all about waiting to see where the game decides to take us next. It's going to continue to go north. That river cutting directly through phase 2. Luminosity are already pushing up north. Another south to north rotation. It's going to be very brutal once again, Chunks.
These circles are just a nightmare for these teams. Now, granted, this isn't a huge river. You can make the cross relatively easily. But if you want to keep your vehicle intact and you want to go over that bridge, you've got a team like LG, like Duel, that can already post up over there. This could cause some real problems here, because I would expect that most squads now do opt to move to the north, and there isn't a whole lot of play that you have in that. If a team does decide to bridge camp, which, I mean, we saw it from Al-Qudsi in that first week of the Players Cup, it would cause huge problems. LG, they're not quite set up enough to take out Team Liquid. They're focused on getting themselves some hard cover, but I would imagine that the compound that LG are currently taking is going to be hotly contested over the next few minutes.
Possibly. I also think a lot of other teams are going to know that a squad is already there and just, you know, be one of the unfortunate souls who didn't have the immediate trajectory onto the bridge like Liquid did and just fighting on the edge once again. Liquid taking the hilltop that was just vacated by pure RNG. A nice little bowl position. See how much damage they can do, how much work they can do. There's Team Casito that are arriving just from the west. The timing is only a few seconds off. And Alo grabs the kill for it.
Alo, extremely low on ammo in that barrel, though. He's not got any bullets in reserve. I'm intrigued how that's happened. Team Liquid, they've not taken a huge number of fights. So,
well, again, it's because they looted Stadium. It was towards the end of the plane path, and Phase 1 was right on top of Stadium. And so for them, they just need to prioritize defending their position rather than get caught unawares and have other teams that had faster rotation timings than them suddenly be on their doorstep. But Tony takes Kurt down. Great shots coming in from Typhon. Should be an easy enough revive. But that's still not great to see when Liquid are set up in a position to defend the center, especially as you mentioned, with lower equipment than others.
I'm just intrigued to see how squads play this now. A lot of E pickups being used, and to the downfall of potentially dangerous. They nearly lose another. Selfish, you've got to imagine he's going to be able to finish off the job here. Only one left up from potentially dangerous now. He's exposed over on the ridge, tries to get a knock, but it's just not enough. And that's an unfortunate way for things to go. Maybe thinking that the compound was a lot clearer than it ended up being. Czech are going to be happy about it, though. That's 4 kills without even getting a player knocked.
Yeah, the timing on that E pickup looks very questionable. But I can understand the feeling of desperation. There were only a couple of bridges, both quite vulnerable. And you're right, though. I'm looking at the overall map. Everyone's going towards the north. There are only a couple of teams still on the south. Al-Qadsia now rolling around. There's a squad that's close to them. And a couple of shots, I believe, are coming in from the north, coming in from Mira. That's those tracers are identifying. Infinite Void with a double knock. Catching Al-Qadsia completely off guard, and now suddenly Rello by himself.
That is rough for Al-Qadsia, but all of these teams are going to be happy with the way that circle has shifted. Toyo with a massive split, I have to say. I think they were really hoping it would somehow pull back down to the south, but it's not to be. They've already got Benya in the circle, though, so it will give them a bit of an opening. And a bit of info that there's not really anyone nearby they have to worry about. I'm surprised Rello's actually engaging onto this. It looks like he wants to commit to the fight, which, with the amount of points they've got on the board, can't really blame him for. Just try and salvage a kill or two out of this one.
Trying to get a little bit of a revenge frag onto Fora. Grenade at the ready. Spotted onto the player. Didn't have the angle, but the grenade lands true. Atlas has gone down. Looking to confirm that, but shots coming in from the south now. All of a sudden, Rello. It's an even worse situation than I think he probably considered, and should know that he's running into a player, spots them. Reaction speed still on top. So that's 1 point for them. That's something.
He's looking to get a second, but it looks like Atlas will be revived. Infinite Void going to go for the peak, try and get a bit of an angle. Not sure whether Rello has a read on exactly what rock they're on. Needs to be very careful about exposing himself here. It's only phase 3. Shouldn't do too much damage. Nice nades coming out from Team Mirrors. They recognize 55 are in there. I mean, they don't really have much choice in the matter. They're going to have to back off of this one. They just don't have the info to be able to commit onto this fight just yet.
God, imagine an urban finish in Rondo, of all places up in the north, but that's what it looks like. We're going to be playing out from here. More shots come out from Rello, hiding in the blue, or I say hiding, more forced to stay out in the blue. And likely running back to the death box to grab some more meds because their trek into the zone is going to be a very, very difficult one. Kawazine caught out in a 1 versus 2. The rest of 55 crashing from the north. LFP's gone down. Fana's playing from a different angle.
Really nice play here from Mira to be able to defend this, but it's going to be difficult when a nade lands on point just like that from T-Plents. There's only going to be one player left up for Mira's 55. Got themselves the second kill on the board, making it a third. And they are just sweeping now, trying to identify where this final player is, not wanting to give any information away. You mentioned it, we could see an urban ending here. And if we don't, well, you got to think those squads up on the high ground, like Liquid, are going to be happy to sponge out any points from those rotating teams. As Toyo, they did take a knockdown on the southern side. They are very split up. I think they might end up getting punished here as... Oh, Duel is sneaking in as well. Just about. That urban area is still inside, but there's so much unplayable terrain here in terms of just open positions that no squad is going to want to take.
Yeah, pure RNG are going to be in the best spot purely by the amount of cover and the fact that it's isolated from everyone else. Bit of a send by Typhon onto Toyo, but despite The attempted hold, Toyo do go down. They get eliminated. Typhon's still standing, but this is... I'm looking towards Non-Tron, and it's going to be a very, very chaotic exit from this City 55. Currently holding that line, as Akatsuya do get eliminated. Go out to the blue. Wooly goes down to Luke. This is going to be a hectic continuation of this game, Chunks. I can't imagine how it's going to play out. 55 are already throwing utility out.
I don't think they have any idea where Fana is, though. All it takes is 55 to run out and think that the player is further away. This is not the kind of angle that many teams are really going to be checking right here. The single piece of the wall. The smokes do provide ample cover, though, for 55 to get a little bit further in. And now they are the gatekeepers in this zone. 4 E pickups coming in, but not being... they were using check, have now got themselves a position up on that ridge on the far northeast. As I'm surprised that things have slowed down quite as much as they have, but I mean, it's phase 4 and we've already lost 5 teams. Half the lobby's gone in terms of players, Cabby.
Can you blame them? I don't even know where you'd want to play out from this zone, but Duel have arrived. They might have lost Wooly, but everyone else pulling up in the bus. Taking a nice... I mean, it's center enough and good portable shield usage as well. They're finding something. I don't think they're going to be getting too many kills from that position, but they're going to be avoiding the conflicts from the edges, especially this western one. This is where the fighting's really going to be breaking out from, and I think Liquid are hoping to be able to farm up. But you got to, again, remind yourself the ammo deficiency that Liquid are going to be playing with. They're going to try and get those points, but at some point they're going to need to refill their backpacks.
I almost feel like Liquid were hoping that that circle went a little bit further to the east in our previous pop.
Right.
Just that they could have gate kept here, but not to be. And I mean, getting down this hillside is going to be no easy feat for them when the time comes. Typhon, 2 kills on the board. It's a start for them, but they really need to pick up the pace now, and it's not going to be easy to do as we're inside of the town. The circle is closing in. It's going to force a lot of these compounds and buildings to be unplayable. Nice shots coming through from Scooby onto Sam Crow, but not able to convert as forever. They're just focused on gatekeeping and praying that the zone comes their way, but it's LG that are getting aggressive now.
Huge utility coming out from both squads. Snakers goes down. Andrew gets traded by a final grenade, and Selfish has also been knocked by the blue. It's a flank coming out from InCheck. RN Zara with a brutal position, upsetting Liquid's attempted send towards the north, as that is the same direction that the circle has continued to go. Snakers can still get revived. Trying to catch RN Zara on the exit. I think the reset is going to happen, but here some more shots by Pure RNG.
Isla playing the rock for everything it's worth, trying to get an angle over the top. He knows there's got to be a player close. That's a really nicely placed underhand nade. Didn't have the info to work with. Gets flashbang, but that doesn't matter. Beautiful spray. There's LG, 4 kills on the board. They've not lost a player. They have a really strong position going into this next zone. They have a huge ridgeline that they're able to play. Again, that TPP, they don't really need to peek over necessarily to gather that info. They can stay safe. The same can't be said for Typhon, though, as they're going to be forced to cross over this road. And we've got, what, 5 teams all going to have to run out in the open to try and get over to that ridge. It's almost a death sentence being in this city now.
At this point, go for kills. Get what you can. Guaranteeing a position in the center is not going to be found by anyone. Liquid, they took Duel's position, removed them from the lobby. Pure RNG now pushing out. They got a knock against Luke. More grenades are being thrown back as an attempt to answer. I don't know if Luke's going to get revived, but the rest of Liquid, yeah, I don't think they'd want to give up this position to go and get back up at 4.
Sparkin's doing what he can to get aggressive. I mean, he's throwing down smokes as if he wants to go for the revive. You got to wonder with Lobes holding on that ridge, on that wall, sorry. They're probably not going to make anything out of it. They do actually send Kurt down there for the res. So RNG, they get distracted. They make their presence known, and they're not able to convert it. It looks like right now Sparking just playing for as soon as they peek, he's going to get aggressive, but they're not going to, and they've somehow managed to get the revive coming through.
For a brief moment, we saw Luminosity push on the minimap, but we're going to check back in on the west. It's Team Mira, or rather Fana, still alive, still holding on to the hope of further placement points. Spotted out by OMG, dropped down to 2 HP, and the rest of Forever buzzing around his area, his position, his one place of solace, of safety behind this rock. Forever might just be leaving him behind because they got to push through without getting taken out by that same angle of OMG. Oh, no! Come on.
Oh no, and Nubski's now just in the water. Surely he doesn't go for the revive here. There's a Mirror player still up. He's going to try and get the flush on this if he's able to. RNG get eliminated with a big nade coming through from Gats to finish off the job. That is just not the way you want things to go, especially when you're out on the circle like that. You know you're not getting the revive, and now they've just got a player forced to make a swim into the circle, and there's not a single player inside this zone right now.
Not one. Not a single one. It's so out in the open. It's half road, it looks like. So teams are, rightfully so, just going to be playing on this edge. Getting the kills where they can. We're already down to 7 teams. Good shots coming in from Luminosity, dropping Sparking quite low. And here comes the peak by Team Casito. They took out Typhon, I believe, just a few moments ago. And now they're ready to keep fighting further into this area, into this zone. They're in the vehicles. They're pushing through. But they're pushing past. They're not committing.
I expected them to push directly onto LG there, but evidently not, as a little bit more cover going to come out from Team Liquid now, just throwing down the flares, as Casito have just gone dead center almost. Are they pushing all the way up to OMG? No, they've actually found themselves a dip right in the center of the zone. This is really powerful, but they've got to be concerned with only 2 players left up.
Yeah.
I think they know that it's such an open area that no squad is really going to be able to push. It's almost like what we saw from Alo in our previous game, where he was in a shack, which on its own isn't great, but there's so much open space that just nobody can push in.
Great shots by Bizzler, getting that knock and looking to try and confirm that very fast. Snakers gets a knock onto Sparking as well, so Luminosity once again entering the end game, and they are trying to take on over. Here it does eventually go down, but for Fana, a really good point grab. A couple of salvage placement points there at the end, but 5 teams alive. Still very few players inside the zone. Bizzler having to run out into the blue to grab the vehicle to make their own way through.
Box now has been able to get into the circle for LG. He's still trying to figure out how to navigate. Team Liquid up ahead. Gats gets a knock onto Alo. Looks to get a second onto Kurt, but it's not enough as Furhopper third parties. The zone is creeping in. It's going to eliminate that cover soon. So LG, they're starting to become under pressure, completely caught on the tail end of things, as now it looks like 55 Esports, they're getting aggressive as well. They're trying to hold out the 2 NA teams left in the lobby as Snakers throws down the nade. It's just a little bit late, a little bit far. Kurt gets caught with the damage, caught with the knock, trying to finish off Luke 12 as more frags come in. He somehow survives. He's still exposed, caught with a headshot, but somehow he just refuses to die.
55 also arriving, but their focus was on Luminosity. The angle was on Luminosity. Eventually, T-Plens takes Kurt down, but the grenade by Snakers drops Luke, and Liquid are eliminated. 3v3, v2, v2. And I don't know who has the advantage here. Hard shift back down south with phase 7. And a lot of helmets missing I'm seeing across the field, but grenades out onto the bull. Team Casito.
Furhopper didn't quite spot the head of the player down behind that emergency shield. And Casito going to be thankful of that. So Robert using that third person, trying to get some information without exposing himself. Casito have an amazing position. I think they realise now that OMG are going to be forced to make a push. They're hopping in a vehicle. Looks like they could be making a move. LG, they've got themselves a really nice little bowl. But again, they just can't peek. It's such a barren area right here. There's not trees, there's not rocks, there is nothing to work with. This is one of those maps where TPP really comes into its own, not having to expose yourself to be able to gather that little bit of extra info.
Now we wait for the shots and the knocks to start happening again. Bit of a standoff here. The blue is going to force a fight sooner rather than later. But every single team in here knows that if they step out in the open first, they're going to get lit up, torn to shreds. At some point, they're going to have to push in. At some point, you have to make the move. At some point, you have to try and create the opening if no one gives it to you. So OMG, they might be prepping for a send on a Team Casino. A little bit of team damage there. Don't exactly have time to heal up before they build that momentum, build that speed. And it's a swing around the side. Is it Casino? Is it 55? Who does OMG have their sights set on?
Heading straight into 55. Not sure what they were expecting it. They swing around, take it straight into Casito, but not going to be able to make anything happen. 55, they've heard the shots. They know the players are going to be weakened, and it is an amazing grenade, followed by the shots to finish off the job. 11 kills on the board from 55 Esports. They have pushed all the way out of that city over to their west, and they have made the most out of it. Heavy frags this game. LG keeping trajectory, though. 9 kills on the board. Regardless of who wins, we're going to have a lot of kills and a lot of points for that first place team.
Luminosity have the superior position in this endgame fight. 55 are not giving it up for free, though. You can see a member swinging up towards the north, and T-Plants with the grenade out, looking to catch a member of Luminosity off guard. H11 Jr. does go down to Gats. Can't outflank the flanker. T-Plants is eyeing it up, lining up the headshots, deals some damage, but here comes Snakers pushing him from the opposite side. Snakers does go down,
God.
and Bizzler. T-Plants with the double spray, the double knock, and all of a sudden, it's a 55 victory on our screens. 14 kill chicken dinner for them.
LG, they thought they had the read, but that shield coming in clutch. 14 kills for 55 Esports. An amazing performance from them in our Rondo game of the evening. And what a difficult circle that was, Cammy, for all those teams to try and navigate. It felt like there was so many options that teams could have taken early on, and they all just clustered up in the center. As soon as that shifted north, you had a feeling, didn't you, that it was just going to be a brutal end game, and that's exactly what it was. But credit to 55, because they were arguably in the weakest position as soon as that circle shifted out of the town, and they made the most out of it.
Here in the highlights is when the fighting started to happen on this hilltop. We didn't know how far north this circle was going to continue to send. And teams just really wanted to avoid the city, so much so that potentially dangerous. E picked up on a completely different spot, still out in the open. I believe.
I mean, credit to Incheck.
Oh, yeah.
Incheck to be able to strike on that. They took 2 of them out while they were in midair. And then, I mean, Relo, that was a huge nade. The way it just bounced off of the rock and directly behind that player was so impressive. Sure, he wasn't able to make much happen after that, but Alcutia, they don't have to worry about points right now. They're pretty confident in how they're performing. And, hey, if they have one more decent performance, they're pretty much locked in. I find it very unlikely they don't make it through to the Super Cup.
Yeah, more or less. Again, just seeing how open this whole area is. Luminosity had basically a field day. Grabbing a whole bunch of kills. Like we're trying to hold off, and here's that send by OMG, but this is when 55. Well, they've already made a name for themselves, and they're really taking over from this point out. Final spray down from Mixtal. This really could have been anyone's game as far as the final 3 versus 3. The T-Plants double. Beautiful work. They grabbed a whole bunch of kills coming out from the city, and they confirmed the entire thing. So really good job by 55 at the end of that game. It was a slow start of the year for them. But if they can keep up performances like this, then we'll start to be more familiar with the 55 that we got used to towards the end of last year.
Sometimes it is about just getting back into the swing of things. And, you know, sometimes you reset, you take that break. You have to come back and almost relearn things. If you're not actively scrimming, then sometimes it can be hard to pick back up where you left off. And, I mean, 55, they've shown what they're capable of. They just need to keep that momentum going for the rest of the evening. Really impressive game coming out from them. And I can't emphasize enough just how difficult their position was inside that city until it shifted off to the east. But all around, amazing plays from so many of those squads in such a brutal circle. And it's not too surprising to see, you know, half of the lobby get maximum of 2 points. But 55, they're tied up with LG right now after a really strong performance. There's still a couple of teams that just haven't managed to get going. And with only 1 game left, you got to question just how much they're going to be able to do.
Yeah, a 5-point drop from 8th place to 9th place. and then further 5 points from 10th to 11th. And Team Casito, they're at the bottom of the leaderboard. They got 11 points that last round alone. Granted, we're only 3 maps in, so as we've said before, we'll say it again, one good game could get you back up in the mix, but we are starting to run out of time where the opportunity for those good games are going to be getting fewer and fewer.
Well, it's back home next, isn't it? We're back to Erangel. Every team is going to be comfortable with it, but I mean, with the way the circles are playing out, it's sure going to be an interesting one. I got to say that. I just hope that the pattern continues and we end up somewhere like Zaki, just somewhere that these teams are not expecting to go.
Yeah, well, I know where I'm expecting to go, and that's to another break. As Chunk said, we have one map coming up tonight. We have a whole entire best of 4 coming up tomorrow as well, but we're going to go to a break, and we'll see you in a few more minutes.
What I would do for you. What I would do for you. What I would do for you. What I would do for you.
Us to see tonight. Leaderboard is starting to get shaken up or established. solidly. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. The point is, teams at the top are feeling very, very comfortable, and this is the last chance tonight for the teams towards the bottom to really mix things up and put themselves in the conversation of top 8, because that's really all that matters by the end of this week. And we just saw 55 basically slingshot themselves up a good number of positions to find themselves, I believe it was second place right now currently in the standings. Is Duel next? Is Liquid going to come out with a really strong round? Who's to say? We have Erangel to find out, Chunks.
Yeah, I mean, it's tied on points right now up at the top end of things, so it is pretty close. Still plenty of games left in the grand scheme of things. We're only just reaching that halfway point in our next match. But just a reminder, anyone can take part in this as long as you're over 16 years of age. Do ! Register in chat, and you could be here next week because there's prize pools for not only the Players Cup, also for the Super Cup, for the Masters events. So make sure you get yourself signed up, and you can be playing against some of the best in Americas, because with one match left, we've seen just how much one game can make a difference, and all it takes is you to have one good game and you could be qualifying all the way through to that Super Cup or the Masters.
Yeah, but the problem is trying to put yourself in a position to win that one game that we've seen so far, and well, this entire Players Tour of 2025 so far can be very, very complicated. Edge fighting is all of the rage right now. It's what everyone wants to do. It's really in vogue at the moment. Good playing path to start things off. But Chunks, until I see the first circle, my eyes are going to be glued on a Sosnovka Island or Milta Peninsula, and this plane path is teasing that.
It has to, right? I mean, come on. With
does.
a plane path like this, with the circles that we've had tonight, it feels like it's almost a guarantee that we're going to end up on that Millie Island or somewhere up in Severny. We're not going to get like a standard Rozhok finish kind of ending, but we will have to see. Doesn't appear to be any hot drops coming out, which is a positive.
Watch as Naya. That's a really big city, and they're choosing not to share. I can see shots coming out from the map.
I couldn't even tell, and there's the circle. It's not too bad, but we'll see how shift 1 goes. Yeah, you're right, Yasnaya. It's messy. LG getting aggressive early, but not engaging fully onto it. They want to get themselves at least a bit of loot before taking this one.
Voxic picking up over the wall on top of the roof. Looking for those angles, looking to see. And this is not a bad position to loot for this circle. That's what makes the hot drop that much more frustrating, I imagine, because they should be ready to go in about a minute and a half from now, but we can't even guarantee that the fight's going to be over in a minute and a half from here.
No, this is one of those where it's a city that can be shared, and for the longest time, it feels like we saw teams sharing it, where you could have 2, sometimes even 3 teams sharing this position, and they wouldn't necessarily engage onto each other, but that doesn't seem to be ringing true right now as Bisla gets the opening knock. LG are going to look to try and pounce on this, but they don't have quite enough info to be confident to make that cross. Vox is going to try and read a little bit more, but he really has nothing. He can't support too much on this fight. Doesn't even have a vest right now.
I don't know if Bisla or even Snakers spotted out Infinite there on the north. And there's Atlas No Cap, the closest player to their fallen teammate, Pleasure. Try and cross and get the res. Oh, for a second I thought the smoke bounced off the door, but it did make it outside. Opened the door for the free run. An Infinite Void looking to put some covering fire out, but Voxic doesn't get the knock on the cross.
Isla's still putting in damage, though. They've got the read on where those players are, and LG, they are just swarming onto this right now. Snakers has the nade. Not quite the right window, and, well, he's not able to line it up either. He's going to try and catch a little bit of damage, but nothing connecting. Voxic finally getting the chance to actually heal up, and to loot up and get himself a close-range weapon. If he's lucky, he might even be able to treat himself to a vest. Atlas, though, he's got the read on this, knows that they are closing in, spotted them through the window. It's LG. I don't think they're 100% certain about exactly where these players are.
Not entirely. But they have the read on the building that they're playing out of. Voxic cleared the side set of this housing pair. Ooh, and spotted Atlas. Top gonna pre-fire. disrupts
Doesn't
the
land.
nade trajectory.
It's a little bit surprising the pre-fire didn't connect, but unfortunately not to be. Bizzler, Gats putting in some work right now. Bizzler has the read that there could be a player around here, but he's not able to spot it. I think he's heard the footsteps he's chasing as Infinite Void tries to make a move in that vehicle. Bizzler is closing up the distance, and surely you got to imagine at this kind of range he can hit the spray, but the wall just caused a bit of a problem. He tries to land the shots, but not to be, and Void might just be able to make an escape here.
An escape to Narnia to go and get some loot on top of Stalber, I imagine. Some shots landing, but they're landing on the vehicle, and I think it's a far distance to try and blow that thing up. And so I do think Infinite is gone, is out of there. Not going to Stalber. Instead might loot up at No Lean, but that might just be asking you to get crashed by Luminosity. We do check in with other teams on this map as rotations have come in. Look at themselves once again finding an opportunity for an early phase 1 position. Luke played on the low ground, the rest of the team playing up on Georgiaville Mountain. Shots coming out. Just barely knock. Oh, okay, the knock comes in, the final bullet.
I can't help but notice the number of emergency pickups that are currently being used to go dead center.
Oh, right.
Take a detour at the moment, though. There's Toyo. Really nice shots onto Duel, causing major problems. We said just before the game started, we want to see something from Duel. They just need that one game, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to be this one. Down to a duo, and they are eliminated out in 16th position. Going to reset and come back tomorrow, hopefully, with a different game plan. But as I was saying, the number of emergency pickups now being used, going dead center. We saw a similar circle to this in one of the previous player cups, and we ended up going all the way up to the northwest. I'm not sure what people call the compound, but you know, there's that little T junction. I always think of it as like the Tempo Storm NPL junction, you know, and I would love to see another one of those because it was scrappy last time. I want to see something a little bit more organized, and a squad like Forever that are already in prime position. If it ends up going there, they're going to be over the moon.
Could never guarantee anything in phase 1, though, and Infinite still driving around, still not even going for loot, just trying to go center and farm placements, I imagine. Unable to find a shack so far as in check. They're quite spread out. They have a nice little, it's actually a full box spread, but here comes Liquid. Good initial shots by Andrew, following up with a spray, but great return damage by Kurt.
Close to be able to survive that one. Really nicely done to connect onto Luke, but now he is just swarmed by Team Liquid. He tried to throw down the gas can to maybe set up a little bit of a trap, but it didn't work out. Alo gets the knock, follows it with the flush. Now, sure, they've got the hard cover, but this is a difficult compound when it comes to actually rotating out of it. In check, have the high ground. And if they decide to hold on to this, I mean, their center circle, I wouldn't imagine that they move. They could do a lot of damage on the rotation. I think the problem with the circle like this, when you're taking the hard cover, is the terrain is so steep that you don't get any angle up that hill. And when the time finally comes to rotate out, there's so many squads up on the high ground that they are just doing so much damage. As we see a Zarky fight kicking off.
Who's fighting over Zarky? This isn't even valuable to hold ever. The circle's not going to stay here, just the way that it interacts around the water. With Psycho with a nice little knock on an Upski. I mean, hopefully, gonna try and get Karak picked on up. But no, Bad Kevin is being a real bad Kevin, confirming that kill onto Karak. But out in the open, I mean, smoke for cover. That's not gonna give them too many opportunities to try and retreat, even if they are able to get the revive.
Nice nades connecting, but not able to do enough damage. As Forever, they are just completely pincered right now. I'm surprised Typhon haven't been able to make anything off of this, but huge from Bad Kevin there to be able to take out Tony. Psycho's going to try and close it up, but no line of sight. He is out on his own. The rest of Typhon are nowhere to be found as they're actually taking a fight against the other members of Forever. There's only one player left up for Forever now, but Psycho has given his position away as soon as one of these players peaks. You've got to imagine they are done, but it actually looks like Bad has been able to move away. He's got the read, catches the spray, down to 1 HP, but somehow still in it.
Psycho doesn't know exactly how much damage that he did. So, And also the distance he had to cross still would have allowed Bad Kevin to get the heals. Spots the grenade, prones down to reduce the damage. But still locked into this 1v1. Kevin gonna go for the res. He's gonna stick it. Can't quite jump over it in time.
All it takes now is one well-placed nade. Typhon have really put in work right now. They actually took a fight down at that Tempo Storm compound we spoke about earlier. So they're looking to try and get themselves a couple more points on the board. It's going to be difficult for them. It's Kevin just not able to connect. It's an absolute peak battle right now. Neither of them want to overexpose themselves. They know that they're both solo, and all the pressure is on Psycho to try and get his teammates back up. But as Kevin moves away, drops down prone, the pre-fire comes out, lands to the head, and now it's a case of trying to get Tony up before he bleeds out. Should be able to, but Typhon are weakened, and Sam Crow is a long way away.
If they have a vehicle, I think they should be able to get the revive, but look at this circle shift. It is going to stay wild, it is going to stay crazy, and maybe there is a reason they were fighting over these compounds to begin with. Rotations coming through, trying to take this hill that in check are holding on to. In check did lose that one player to Liquid, but they have the rest of the players up and on top of that North Georgia Pole hill.
Well, this is going to be a messy one. We've already got 3-4 teams all playing for one hillside. But as we focus in on Infinite Void, as the solo player for Adores, I don't think Pure RNG have a great read that there's a player down here from the way that they're positioning. Roth, though, has a good read on the rotate, catches a lot of damage onto Gats, but not able to convert. And Alcudzia, they make these high-risk plays playing off split. Roth has to be careful now, though.
Grenade out by Lobes, but caught by Voxic. Grenade still gets the knock onto Bizzler. What can Penta do as a response, as a follow-up, and the rest of Pure RNG trying to crash down from the ridge line? Voxic calling it. The drive-by spray doesn't land true, and Vox is going to be able to win that engagement, win that 1v1. While Valet swinging around the side, you can see Alcudzia off on the east, still making their way up that ridge line, and Penta still playing the roof, still playing the high ground. Bizzler is going to bleed out regardless, so 1 point either way, and then another spray onto Vox.
Penta showing zero fear, peeking that one, takes down Vox. He knows there's going to be a player pushing down, but he needs to be cautious off the third party. Snakers peeks up, takes down Penta, and it looks like it's actually going to be Roth to third party that way. Nicely done for Alcudzia, and Valiate is on his own again. It's nothing he's not used to. Let's see if he can make anything out of it. He's in a very tricky position, though, with LG now having the high ground. I can imagine that if they've got any nades, they're all going to be heading directly his way.
Ooh, good smoke to try and eliminate Snaker's angle, but didn't quite spot that a player is going for the res. He's blindly spraying through the smoke, but Voxic is still getting revived. Luminosity are getting away with it. Now the spray by Rello doesn't find its target onto OMG. The slope was just enough cover. And now Valet is backing away, just going to jump into the water, playing for survival once again.
He's happy with this. He can make it to the late game, but oh my gosh, Infinite Void doing a lot of damage onto Oh My God right there. As he tries to pre-aim the angle, the BZ nade is going to force him out, and that is a huge play to take down two already. Underhands the Molotov, should be enough to finish off the job, and he gets a third to go along with it. OMG is just falling apart. That's 4 kills on the board for Infinite Void as a solo.
OMG had no idea. There was no way for them to expect that a player was going to be down here, but Infinite Void was handling it very well, keeping the chaos ramped up to 100, and now stuck into the 1v1. Grenade almost takes him out. Pulls away to a further, more safe distance. He knows that Pain cannot get any reses. There is no threat of recovery, but there is still the maintained threat of being locked in into this shelter. Stuck into this 1v1. Do have to wonder who's going to have the advantage in terms of the TPP camera with the high ground, low ground.
I think it's all about who pushes first. Neither of these players have to make a move. I think Pain is going to be hesitant to move away from this one. He knows that he has Void trapped. Looking at the way that the circle has shifted, though, every team is going to be forced into the open sooner or later. We spoke about how open this area was, and there's basically one big hill that teams have to try and work their way around now, and there's not a whole lot of hard cover, and even the hard cover that you do have is very tricky to fight out of. In check, nice knock from Selfish to take down Slabby. Potentially dangerous. Struggling to find an entrance into the zone. They're just about on the edge, but they need to get something a little bit more manageable.
I mean, you can't really blame them, though. You said it yourself. It's wide open outside of this hill. And Czech are holding on to it as much as they can so far. Let's see how many more teams want to contest them. Grenade out by Brand, drops LFP. Fano looking to respond. Fighting over these apartment buildings. This is an isolated engagement. The team should know that there's a very low chance of them getting third-partied. And Fano spots something through that smoke, able to take that 1 versus 1. So looking for an opportunity to revive their teammate. Kawazine pulling some information, calling out some information from a back angle. And then Cruxy just trying to retreat, trying to get away. Where's Robert?
Cruxy? I don't know. I mean, Robert is all the way over in the center right now. I think he's got like a shack or something. He's kind of towards Infinite Void, just down the hill from him. I think he's just playing what little cover he actually has because, as we mentioned, there is just nothing to work with inside this zone. I think there's going to be a lot of teams just rotating, trying to find an opening. It's just not going to happen. But oh no, Cowboy, that is not the way you want it to go.
Really unfortunate. Now Luminosity getting ready to move on out. We got 10 seconds. We already saw phase 3 pull away from most of the water. So there's not going to be any guaranteed huge shifts coming out. Still could hard shift though. Then Rello almost taking Unhappy down, dropping him down to about 40 HP. Oh, I think that was a hard shift. I think that was still a hard shift. Yes, it was.
We're going to Georgia, Paul.
Or as close enough as we can get it, but we're going to keep our eyes on this Alcudzia fight. Trying to take this last member of FIM out. Grenades getting dodged. For the blue zone and the final frag by Rello. Untakes? Removes Unhappy from the game. English is hard sometimes.
Look, everything is a mess tonight. Don't worry about it. These circles have been brutal. They're going to keep going that way. We were speaking about the one hillside, and that's basically all they've got now. I do like potentially Dangerous's position, where they currently are. They do have some, I want to say decent ridges. They've got ridges that they can work with, and I think that's better than most teams are going to find. The mortars are actually coming in really close here to Team Casito. They do still have that shack for a little bit of safety, but they're going to have to rotate out soon and basically directly into Team Liquid. Sparkin knows it, and he's just holding that rock covering, almost calling out to his team, hey, a little bit further away for that mortar. He does need to be careful, as there is going to be 55 esports over on that plane crash area. It's how Alcudzia now. Looks like it was about to kick off. Surely Vox is going to take those shots, but no, Tony with the third party prevents him from peeking.
Yeah, Luminosity don't want to overcommit. They've already lost one player, and it's only phase 4. And especially with a big question mark on how the rest of this game is going to play out, considering the amount of open space that's still available. It's understandable to be a bit more conservative. A lot of smokes out, though, to keep Voxic alive. Eventually Dangerous. Playing from a nice ridge on the edge. Again, also playing conservative. Low utility, at least on the side of Glock. Bunch of smokes, but no frags, no molly, no blue zone, so they can't exactly upset Alcudzia's position across the road. And the 1v1, we're tuning back in. A lot of stuns in play, but that vehicle is blocking Infinite's exit.
Yeah, this is a smart play, I have to say, from Payne. I think he knows that if he can just blow up that vehicle, make it difficult for Infinite Void, then it's at least going to prevent him from getting into zone. Typhon, though, they've heard the shots. They're moving over to this, so I think whoever actually does make it out of here is ultimately gonna die. I don't see them making it much further in. We should point out Valier is still alive. He is out in the blue, and he is picking up first aids off of the compound that he was fighting in earlier, so he's just gonna do his usual.
Wait a second. Wait a second. 55 are now to the west of Liquid. Last time we saw them, they were to the east. They must have sent it through in a vehicle and just took the top side of the hill after InCheck dropped down to the low side in the compound. The vehicle did blow up, but it created a gap. Infinite's pushing out, spotted by Pain. Stun comes out, but oh, the blue takes care of him. Infinite doesn't come out with the kill point. And unfortunately, there are still 12 teams alive, so placement also wasn't available yet. Their RNG goes down. A few moments after, and here comes Liquid's push up the hillside. Double knock, H11 plants both down. Mixall trying to retreat. The spray comes out. The vehicle does make it over the ridge side, but where is it going to go from here?
What a circle shift, I have to say. I think there is only one team with actual cover. It's InCheck, but this is a horrible compound to try and hold on to because you really don't have very good lines of sight. Up that hillside, they're going to try and make something happen out of it, just as Mira do. They take down Gabriel and potentially Dangerous. If they do want to get the revive onto that, they're going to have to commit a player in the vehicle, but with the zone moving in, it isn't looking likely. Tony making his last stand, takes down Kurt. Void still as a solo, though, takes down Psycho. As Typhon, they're down to just a solo. Tony is now giving his position away to Liquid and is potentially pinched between a rock and a hard place.
Finding kills, though, salvaging points and staying alive. This is a great attempt here by Infinite. Sparking confirms T-Plants. I believe Liquid were able to get the revive onto Kurt. Yes, indeed. Grenades up and over, and that's going to be it for Typhon. Tony goes down, and now Mira pushes up. Spotted for a brief moment at the very least. As you mentioned, though, Liquid should know that Infinite is here on the north. The exact position, that's the big question. You can see Luminosity also hunting for it on the minimap.
Now, if things fall his way, Luminosity could distract Liquid, but the way that Voxic is moving isn't making it look too likely. Spots out the player with the TPP. He's not able to turn around in time. It's Halo that gets the kill, but now LG, Liquid, they're going to be forced into a fight onto each other. Snakers gets the knock onto Kurt. Vox throws a beautifully placed nade, but it's not enough to get the knock. One gets returned. Vox is low HP, but Sparkin is now taking a little bit of bloom. No, he's got the jammer pack on, so he will be safe for the time being as Luke just tries to hold on to the smoke. Sparkin spins round, takes down Vox, followed by Snakers. Gat's the only one left up, and he's got no choice but to retreat. All it takes, though, is a couple of shots, and that's going to be the end of LG.
Great flank by Sparking, using that jammer pack. Gat's barely getting away in a vehicle that was hanging on by thoughts and prayers alone. Looking at that HP bar of the vehicle before he popped out of it. 15 seconds or so before phase 6. Once again, teams are either on the edge or in check in the dead center. There's Mixall, who's sort of floating around that spot, I believe taking perhaps a small edge position away from that, but it is going to be a medium shift northwest. Open field, or at least a lot of it is.
My attention has to go to in check right now, because they know that they need to defend up this hillside. At the same time, though, to be able to look up that hillside from the compound that they're in, they have to expose themselves. They have to go out of the building. So it's going to be a tough balance to make here. They want to make the most out of the kills on the players that are ultimately going to be out in the open. Like, potentially dangerous. They've got one vehicle between the two of them. Yeah. They've not got a huge number of smokes. It's not enough to make this kind of cross. And ultimately, they've got Alcudia waiting when the time finally comes.
Alcudia have been sitting pretty for a while. Haven't had to move, still don't need to. Mira, though, they need to make their way in. Hopping in vehicles, a lot more for them to pick from. I believe it looked like they had one each, but they're crashing directly in on Alcudia. Grenades at the ready, and also being thrown out, but instantly they go down to a homing missile of an SUV by Kawazine.
Who needs a gun when you got cars? Team Casito go down in 8th place. It's hard to believe we've still got 7 teams left, but there are just so many hangers on right now. Fana tries to land the spray. It's not going to be enough. LG fall as Gats eliminated by Luke 12. Liquid putting in work right now. There's only one player left up from potentially dangerous, and it's Halo from outside the vehicle that does the job, but the blue zone tanking a lot of damage at this point. LG, 14 kills so far. This is a huge performance from them.
Yeah.
And now they have one of the only dips inside of the zone. We're basically looking at 3 squads and 2 solos. And EMEA, I gotta say, is in a very difficult position to try and make it in. You've got to assume he's going to get spotted out unless Mira get distracted by Liquid.
Or in check, just don't hear him coming, but that's a very low chance. Yeah, I agree. Benya is probably the next player to go out. Toyo gonna have to struggle to make top 4. But everyone else, I can't make a read on it. Bit of a replay once again, as we can see Kamazine just crashed literally onto Alcudzia. Fake Sin pulling a distraction, and then the rest of the vehicles were beaming directly for them.
And now it's a bit of a waiting game almost. Nobody has to move, and I mean, nobody's going to. It's going to be a lot of DMR shots. Luke 12, prolific with the long-range weaponry. Proving a point yet again, able to get a knock. It looks like they're trying to deny the vehicles now. Trying to blow them up, catching shots wherever they can. There's really not a lot of cover that Mira are able to play with here, but they have been able to get Fana a little bit further ahead, which could provide a slight off angle that Liquid aren't expecting.
Oh,
Toyo has somehow made it in!
Barely 9 HP, runs out, gets the knock, confirms the kill, or just shy of it before going down to Selfish, so that revive might still be on the cards for Incheck. But in the meantime, Liquid push in towards the more aggressive position on top of Mira. They haven't made their way into the zone just yet. This shit favoring Mira's spot. But now the smoke wall in play. Got bombarded by the opposing side, but Liquid are still going to push through. Alo not taking the time to heal up. Still going to play entry, but LFP flank behind the rock. Looking to strike when Liquid least expect it.
Sparking is going to be that difference maker now from up on that hillside. He's doing what he can to third party, but Mira, they have saved that util and they are making it work right now, doing a lot of damage. Sparking trying to catch from over the top, but it's actually going to be in check that decide to make the crash, distracting Mira, potentially providing a little bit of respite for Luke 12. It's 2 solos at this point. There is not much that Sparking can do from his current position. Luke 12 goes down to the nade, and you got to think that the res is beyond all reason. Things are really starting to line up for Mira now, as they just have to try and take down a couple of solos and a duo. They just got to be patient, not expose themselves, and keep their eyes peeled on this field.
They've been playing so good. They've had such good teamwork so far. I think it's all but a shoo-in for them to get another chicken dinner on the night, and 2 out of 4 is really, really impressive. Great spray by Kawazid, dropping Vinny down, and now it really is a 1v1v1. And check it eliminated. Mixall finds the final kill. Able to stay alive after getting virtually decimated by Liquid. Able to get at least 3rd place, but 15 kills for Liquid. Also a great effort by them this run so far.
Mixall was just biding his time in that compound, made the most out of it, and I think he's just about inside of the zone. Sparking, not afraid to take the shots to make some noise. He realizes just how disadvantaged he is. Get a util coming out onto his position. His LFP tries to close that distance. Flashbangs come through, but being careful not to open up too much. Circle centers up. Nobody's in it. I don't think that really matters for Mira, though. They're just focused on taking down Sparking. They know exactly where he is. They've thrown him down a little extra cover, maybe hoping that it would have landed on his head. But Sparking, he's got the shield. He's not overexposing. He's taking the peaks carefully, gathering info, and trying to take these fights in 1 versus 1s rather than a squad versus 1.
Getting surrounded. But great squad play, and it is going to be the full flood of Team Mira. They found Sparking, and they know where their last member is. Mixfell was able to confirm 2nd place. I have to wonder, are they going to go for the die? Yeah, they're prepping the grenade. They're going to take themselves out. They don't want to give that extra point away. They know that they're going to be fighting for a strong position on the leaderboard. And it's going to be Team Mira with a 2nd chicken dinner of the night. 12 kills for them. What a great evening it's been so far.
What a messy evening it's been.
Oh, yeah.
All around. We've not had one kind of normal circle. Every single circle has come down to completely open terrain, to just a couple of players scrapping for points, and it's really tested teams this evening beyond what we would see in kind of a standard set of games. But I have to say, it's been an exciting one. Really impressive from Mira to be able to get their second chicken dinner of the evening, and to be able to do it in such a difficult position as well. So many early games fights going on. I have to say, it's a little bit unfortunate for Typhon, because they were playing aggressively, they were picking up kills, but I think they just got caught out on their splits a few times.
Listen, at the end of the day, you gotta win your gunfights. That's kind of what everything is to set you up for in PUBG. Whether it's first person, whether it's third person, the guns act the same regardless. And there was a lot of really chaotic fights, as you said. This Zarky circle especially sort of incentivizing, not quite forcing, but at the very least incentivizing teams to play from very interesting, weird positions. And Liquid, we got to give it up to them. Yeah, sure, they might have failed to make it all the way across the finish line into the chicken dinner, but 15 kills, third place. What a fantastic run by them.
Amazing. I mean, just from so many teams here, but Liquid, they really shone that game. They were in a very unfortunate position going towards that end game. They just got caught out when they were making that push over onto Mira, but to be able to get so many points out of that match is super impressive for them. Considering as well, we were talking earlier on about how the compounds can be really difficult to play out of in zones like this, because there is so much verticality. They're hard to rotate out of, but they made the most out of it. They got into a good position, and ultimately they picked up a lot of points. And sure, Mira got the win, but in terms of points, it's certainly going to be close.
Yeah, I think with what, 12 kills that Mira
something like that
ended with. I think it's going to be, what, it's 22 points for Mira, 15 plus 5 is, so 21 points for Liquid. So, but yeah, very close regardless. Liquid's going to be in a much better, much more comfortable position. Mira should be in first place overall. Yeah, there it is. 22 points for Mira, and then 20 for Liquid. 55, only 7. In check, only 7 themselves. So once again, top 2 sort of take everything, and everyone else is sort of sharing scraps.
It's just so top heavy these games have been. I love to see it, because, you know, ultimately when you have these really brutal circles, it's about putting yourself in the strongest position to hold others out. And that's something that we've seen from a lot of squads tonight. It's been really impressive. Mira, Liquid, even 55 to be able to make it into the late game like they were able to, just leaving Mixtool in that position in the compound, just laying low and waiting for the opportunity to strike. But in terms of the overall standings, Mira take first place after an amazing second win of the evening. But the disparity, Cammy, when you look down at the bottom half of the leaderboard, there are so many teams that we had high hopes for that have just not been able to make anything happen this evening. You can blame the circles for that, but the only way to tell is tomorrow how they're able to rebound.
You also can't even blame the circles that much, because everyone's still playing the same game that you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are halfway through the night. The weekend, rather. We're done with the night, but halfway through the weekend. Things could still get mixed up, but right now, at the very least, top 6 are looking quite comfortable. That 7-point gap between 6th and 7th place. Things could change. One solid kill win could throw anyone in the bottom half into the mix, into the conversation for a top 8. It's not done yet. But it is looking like, just the way that things are going, that it might just be tomorrow all about the fight over just 2 positions.
Certainly, and it only takes one game. We keep reiterating it, but it's so true. When you've only got 8 matches, it takes 1 or 2 high kill games, and you're all the way up into the top 8. You've made it to the first Super Cup of the year. There's a lot riding on tomorrow now, especially for the teams down in the bottom half that need to make an impression. And remember, anyone can take part in this event. All you have to do is be 16 years of age and do ! 16 years of age or older and do ! Register in chat. Most of these teams have qualified through the weekly scrims, which you can take part in and ultimately play for that prize pool in not only the Players Cup, but also the Super Cups and Masters throughout the year.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's going to be it for us tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We have an entire new set of 4 games tomorrow to really see who is going to be the first class of what's the word? First class of qualifying teams to make it into the Players Cup. It's been a long night. I'm going to go take a break. We'll see you all tomorrow.